Hello, hello, hello. Testing, testing. All right, everyone. I'm going to be the first to say it. I'm going to be the first to say it because I feel like I'm not getting. I feel like. Well, I feel like I speak for the people. All right. Um, I'm an inspiration. How many streams have I been on time in a row at this point? 50, 60? I don't know. Are you guys who's counting? I'm not counting. It's the number's too high to count. It'd be very, very difficult to count that high. Has anyone in history has anyone in history ever worked and fixed their fundamental character flaw better than me? I feel like the answer is no. I feel like the answer is no. I think that I'm just going to say it. I think I'm an inspiration. I think I'm an inspiration to people everywhere. I think you all should take notes. I think that you should feel inspired watching my journey. And I mean this in the most humble way possible. Yeah. I don't I just feel like it should be acknowledged, you know what I'm saying? Um Hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to give a heads up right now. It will be near impossible to not mention NBA stuff at all this stream, but we will try. We will try. What the fuck? Why is this not download, please? All right. Shit. Shit's not downloading. All right, it'll download soon enough. How's everyone doing? You guys doing okay? How do I say this? Olafemi96. Thanks for the 2. Will Luffy find the last road poneglyph in Elbaf? I don't know if it'll be in Elbaf. I do believe that it will be found over the course of, it will be acquired over the course of the Elbaf arc. I feel like it just has to be because this feels like it's the penultimate arc before the big one, where the final war really kicks off. Oda so far has really been doing Zoe, we got a road poneglyph. Whole Cake, we got a road poneglyph. Wano, we got a road poneglyph. Egghead, we didn't, but we started to get the information about the last one, which is the juicy one, right? Last one being, of course, held by the man marked by flames. So Egghead is where we really started to hear that. We're not gonna talk about. We might talk about NBA later. I think I will do. I think once the seeding is all figured out. So maybe this Friday, we'll do a secondary stream on Friday. We'll still cover the chapter, and then maybe we'll do a secondary segment on Friday about specifically about NBA. Because I think I'm just too excited about this year's NBA playoffs to not do anything. Because this year is, the short version is, this year is the first year in some time that the 3 teams that I really like all have a shot at the title. Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors. For me, in that order. Narad, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Morj, how do you cope with stories never having an end like Berserk due to one reason or the other? So, interestingly, I think I'm lucky enough that I've never been truly deeply invested in a story that has not gotten an ending. I think that has never happened. Truly, truly, deeply, deeply entrenched in a story. If I think of my favorite, if I were to think across media, I guess, right? If I were to think across media, in terms of movies, generally everything, movies are movies. If films are doing well, they will continue to get sequels, whatever, right? And there's no film series that I was just so deeply oh, I can't believe this didn't get an ending or that didn't get an ending or anything like that, right? Dark Knight trilogy that got its ending, Lord of the Rings was obviously already complete by the time I was old enough to remember shit. Yeah, generally there's no movie series that I'm just man, this really, really needed an ending. In terms of books, so I was an avid reader when I was a kid. Not so much as I got older, but even as a kid, like if I think back through series that I liked, there was none that I really loved that didn't get an ending or conclusion. So that never happened. Um, it helped that lots of series were already complete. Like His Dark Materials is like one of my favorite book series when I was a kid. That was already complete. Harry Potter, obviously that closed out. Everybody fucking read Harry Potter. When I was really, I also like the Aragon series. I think everyone liked the Aragon series a little bit. Percy Jackson, like the typical classics, those all concluded. Classics for kids, like at that age, those all concluded, for better or worse. Bartimaeus sequence, that concluded nicely. I really like the third book, and it even got an extra fourth book. Those are the series I can think of from when I was a kid. Pretty much all got their endings. The Pendragon series, the Demonata, Cirque du Freak. Those were all my like middle school reading days series. I think those all concluded. And then Bones on my bookshelf. I think, okay, so there's some series actually that I can think of that didn't get good endings, and that's its own separate discussion. Like Gaunt's is on my bookshelf, and that didn't get a good ending. But in terms of not getting endings, I think if I was more into Game of Thrones, like reading the books, because I started off reading the books, but then once I got into the show, I stopped reading the books. If Game of Thrones had never had a TV adaptation, then I'd probably be pretty bummed about that book series never ending. But it got its adaptation, so that was fine. So really, it comes down to anime manga, right? If Breaking Bad had never gotten an ending, that would have sucked. But TV shows, I think, will pretty much, as long as it's a good, successful TV show, it will always get an ending because there's just too much money in its syndication, right? So TV shows, you can always count on it getting an ending, good ending or not, who knows? But there's a random TV show called Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That was like a random fun TV show. And it got an ending, but it was cut short. Like, it cut short a shit ton of... I think season 3 got canceled. So that's like a random TV example. Okay, for anime and manga, right? The only two series that I can think of that I am somewhat passionate about that will likely not get endings are Hunter x Hunter and Berserk. Berserk, I don't... Like, we'll find out the footnotes of what happened, but the adaptation I no longer count as, like, Berserk. It's just written by a different person. Like, it's clearly not, it's just, the story is the person. A story is just, it's an expression of ideas from an individual. That's what stories are, right? Once it's somebody else just pulling an outline and then expressing the story through their brain, it's a fundamentally different story, right? Same reason I don't count the Star Wars, new Star Wars sequels and everything like that. They're just, like, just because there's like a dollar bill payment in like, hey, it's literally the Star Wars, like, I find it funny. This is like a random tangent. I find it funny how viewers view canon, because most people don't like the new Star Wars, but they're all like, this ruined Star Wars canon. It's like, it didn't ruin Star Wars canon. It only ruined Star Wars canon if like people validate it as canon. It's just the silliest thing, because it's just like, everyone could just agree that this is silly and not count it because it's clearly not from fucking George Lucas and the minds behind the original Star Wars series. It's just some shit that some corporation fucking paid some dollars to make up. It's literally the equivalent of like, hey, like being in high school, someone paying you $50 and being like, hey, can I say that I wrote your essay? Can I just say this is mine now? And you're like, sure, okay. It's like, yeah, they're allowed to turn it in now, but we all know it's not your essay. It was written by me originally. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I don't know why people validate it. It's just the dumbest thing. Like, people are so upset over this Star Wars canon being ruined. I'm just like, to me, it's not even fucking, it's like some fan fiction shit. That's also partly one of the reasons that I actually enjoy like the Last Jedi, because it's directed really, really well. It's just the story is shit, but it's directed in a really cool way. I just treat it as fan fiction and not canon, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool fan fiction universe where like Luke goes through all this angsty shit or whatever. That's kind of cool. The scene of the ship getting cut in half is cool. I'm going on a long tangent. Anyway, long story short, yeah, anime and manga, Hunter x Hunter. I feel like Hunter x Hunter won't. I don't see how it's possible for it to get an ending at the rate that he's writing. the cope with Hunter x Hunter is that Hunter x Hunter never was really that much about an overarching story. Funnily enough, the overarching story is really only beginning to develop now with the Dark Continent stuff. The Dark Continent stuff is the first time we have a broader, almost One Piece-esque narrative shaping up where there is a larger overarching mystery to be solved, uncovered. There are pieces in place lore-wise from the past that we're trying to solve in terms of Dawn Freaks, the writing of the book, and everything like that. There are several different factions that have been established, and now we're following like Jing or Gon's dad and his gang, but we're also following the ship, and then Gon and Killua and stuff is like that is happening, and there's a lot of threads coming together that are forming. Prior to this Dark Continent stuff, Hunter x Hunter was like almost just Gon and Killua's adventure of the week. And the only overarching thread at all was they're generally trying to go find Gon's father, but that's pretty much it. It's kind of like Ash's journey to become the very best. Who knows what the fuck that means? It's just he's on his journey to become the very best. Doesn't really have any meaning. There's no real overarching thread, right? So with Hunter x Hunter, it's almost like it's just a bit different because I never was invested for the overarching story in the first place. It was arc to arc kind of what's going on. Now there's an overarching story slowly developing, but it's still going, so I can pretend that we might get to some conclusion even though we won't. But I'm enjoying the ride. If Hunter x Hunter officially just ended tomorrow and we never get anything more, then I'd be pretty sad. I'd want to at least know how the current arc ended. And then finally with Berserk, it is really, really sad that Miura passed away. Obviously, that's the most generic thing anyone could say. But the good news with Berserk is that while I really, really appreciate and respect the work, I was never deeply in love with Berserk as a series. It's one of my favorite series, like one of my 10 favorite series, but like anime manga, but it's not one that I truly, truly like feel deeply intrinsically attached to. It's entirely possible if I'd reread Berserk another time or something, that would have shifted. Because my journey with Berserk, like I read through a good portion. I read through like the Golden Age once, and then I stopped after that. I was just like, oh, that was really good, but stopped after that. Then, like during COVID, I think, or maybe a bit before COVID or something. I think before COVID. It must have been 2018 or something like that. I read all of Berserk, and I was like, damn, that was, phenomenal, obviously. Still didn't love the series as a personal preference thing, but I respected the shit out of it. And, like, I had a lot of notes in terms of analysis videos I wanted to make if I ever shifted to, like, full-on manga Morj stuff. The next manga Morj video is probably going to be Berserk video, by the way, at that point, like, in 2022. And then finally, if I were to ever have, like, reread Berserk, maybe I would have gotten more attached to it. But Miura passed away, and so as soon as I knew that the series isn't going to be continuing on in the same format, it almost prevented me from going back through it and becoming more attached to it, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's get into this shit. Sorry for the long, winding. Sometimes a question will just get me thinking for a while. Like, it's just human nature. Let me start putting this shit up. For y'all. Also, let's get the stream likes to 50 real quick. Yeah, Berserk is, I think the simplest thing I can say about Berserk as to why I am not super deeply attached to it is, I think I just don't resonate with the characters. The only character I truly, really enjoy in Berserk that I really love, like he's probably my favorite antagonist figure, is Griffith. Not because I'm like, Griffith did nothing wrong. Obviously he did. But he's he is my favorite antagonist of probably any series to follow in general. Griffith is my favorite antagonist, I would say. There's a character in Hunter x Hunter's Chimera Ant arc, obviously, who has a certain arc that makes me he's an antagonist still at the end of it, so maybe that character would be I guess I would consider that character my favorite antagonist. But in terms of a true villain all the way through, Griffith is my favorite villain. I'm always most invested in the story when it's Griffin's turn to focus on his narrative. I just don't care much, and this is not to say bad writing or anything like that. Guts obviously phenomenally well written character. It's not my type of character to regularly read as the main character. And it's funny because he's a character type that I often really enjoy in side character roles or secondary character roles. I find that some character types I enjoy in secondary character roles, but not in main character roles. I find that I don't enjoy Guts as a character chapter to chapter, and it's a very Guts-centric story. So I don't find that I enjoy following him as the main character that much. Again, not because he's not well written. It's a personal preference thing. I can appreciate his writing while still not really feeling like reading him over and over, basically. And then the secondary part of it is that I don't fuck with the rest of the supporting cast. And I don't think the rest of his new little band of Hawk, I think most of them are secretly pretty bland and surface level characters, the majority of them, that are elevated by virtue of being in Berserk rather than actually being that well or especially well written, like uniquely well written. I think if you copy and pasted them into some other series, people would just be like, these aren't good characters, or this is a kind of dull cast of characters to me. The supporting cast, personally. I think Berserk was at its strongest to me when it really focused tightly on like a few key characters, key characters and key really powerful, really uniquely thought out and very vividly thought out dynamics that communicated a lot between each character, right? So Guts, Casca, Griffith, that was a lot. Like there's so much depth of storytelling just through that three character dynamic. I think that carried through to some degree to Conviction, where it's actually still around that dynamic in a sense, but now you're adding more fun characters in. And then I feel like Falcon of the Millennium Empire, I feel like it became more focused on the supporting cast, who are not as uniquely thought out characters as the original trio, and they definitely there's not as complex of a dynamic to write around this, like what I view as a budget version Straw Hats, basically. I did end up getting critical there, although I didn't mean to. I think maybe I can't help myself sometimes. Berserk is phenomenal. Berserk is great. I do believe that Miura would have... I'm sure that he had a lot more cooked up for these characters in the long run. I'm just saying what I was experiencing towards the... Like, I'm just trying to explain why I didn't latch on to that series. There was just nothing that really pulled me, I think, because I just don't really care for Guts in his band that much. Where are we at? Yeah. All right, let me clone this. Predictions thing. How do I clone this? I always fucking forget. No, I'll remember. There we go. All right. By the way, Oda's been on a really good run in terms of releasing chapters as of late. Like a really good run. Very consistent. All right. Let's get the streamlabs up to 50 real quick. I think, by the way, Vinland suffered a similar thing with the Baltic Sea War arc and the characters that it chose to write around there. And the fact that it went somewhat... It kind of shat on some of Thorfinn's development for pretty cheap reasons, if that makes sense. I fucking forgot about Vinland. I used to love Vinland. I really used to love Vinland. Oh, that actually reminds me real quick. Hold on. That reminds me real quick. Vinland actually to date was one of the only long-running series that I started to feel like overtook One Piece for me. All right, let's get into this. Here, let me screen share real quick. All right, there we go. Let me catch up on. I know I got some stuff to catch up on. Fading Phase with a basketball question. Fading Phase, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 5 months. I really hope you enjoyed the Pirate King podcast that just came out. For those of you who don't know, Pirate King podcast is where I go answer a shit ton of questions about a whole bunch of topics that viewers submit, and it's where I get a lot broader than One Piece because it's topics that people ask. Some about One Piece, but some about other anime, manga, movies, TV, video games, NBA, real life stuff, etc. And I answer it much more in depth than I usually do on stream because I just have time. So you get, if you want to join Pirate King tier, you get access to like 20, 15, something like that. 15 to 20 or something like that. Hour and a half long podcast that I've been doing every month. All right, Morj, who are your favorite teams to make it to the finals? And do you see any round one upsets? I feel Warriors may upset Rockets purely on experience. Oh, you can't see me? Oh, shit. That's weird. Fuck. Hold on. Don't want this to turn into an audio-only thing. Should be good. Should be good. Yeah. Anyway. So I'll just make myself a little bit bigger. Anyway. So in terms of thanks, Akash Panda. Yeah, I'll keep it short. How about this? I'll keep it short and we can keep some NBA talk for end of stream. So if you've got NBA questions, we'll keep it towards end of stream, okay? Who are your favorite teams to make it to the finals? And do you see... So the teams that I want to make it to the finals are Lakers, Nuggets, or Warriors. I'll even take Timberwolves from the West in that order. Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, or Timberwolves. I'll take any of those four from the West. And then from the East, fucking no one. If anything, maybe the fucking Knicks, so it's an easy matchup, or the Hawks, so that my team from the West can win. If I want a good finals, maybe the Cavs. If it's the Celtics, like the best finals would be like Celtics Lakers or like Celtics Nuggets, Celtics Warriors, Celtics. Like that's the most exciting if a team that I really want to win is going up against the Celtics. That's the most exciting. But the reality is the Celtics would probably fucking win, and that's sad. So I will take the Cavs instead as my people to upset the Celtics. Because the Cavs, I think, will still provide an entertaining finals while being more beatable. I think if the Celtics make it to the finals, that means that they're playing good enough that they got past the Cavs, they got past whoever. They're probably going to win it. I would love to believe, but it's just... It's hard. I don't know. I feel like it's possible the Thunder could beat the Celtics, but then the Thunder fucking I don't want the Thunder to win in general. So the nightmare scenario, the most realistic scenario is that we're looking at Thunder Celtics in the finals. That's the most realistic scenario. If I had to bet money, I would probably bet on that. Yeah, and that's not a fun finals. It would be one of the few finals I can think of. I think it would be the first finals in NBA history of me as a viewer that I legitimately do not want either team to win. I've been watching, not the longest. I guess I've actually been an NBA fan for almost a decade now, so I have been. I can stop saying I'm a new viewer. But in the entire time of me watching the NBA finals, this would be the first time that I don't want either team. Like, I'm not rooting for either team if it's Celtics Thunder, and that would be a really sad finals for me. I think Bucks Suns in 2021 was the last time that I felt that way, and that time was more ambivalent. I was somewhat rooting for Giannis just so he can get his first ring or whatever, but I didn't feel passionate about it, and I found it to be a very boring finals, although people in retrospect say that it was a good finals. When you don't feel passionate about it, it's hard to really care. Celtics Thunder this year would be the first time that it's two teams that I actively, strongly dislike would be in the finals. So let's hope that doesn't happen. And round one upsets, I think Warriors will upset Rockets. I think Warriors will upset Rockets if the Warriors lock up the 7th seed. If the Warriors get the 8th seed, I would actually love to see them take on the Thunder and just try and... I think Warriors Thunder would be a lot of fun to watch because for me, it's just like, if the Warriors lose, then it's just like, well, they probably weren't good enough to make it all the way to the championship anyway. But if the Warriors play the Thunder in round 1, then it's like, there's a chance I could see the Thunder lose, and that would be really good to see. Anyway, that's enough of that. Well, in general, upsets, I would say, I think the Clippers could beat the Nuggets. Initially, I was excited because the Nuggets didn't have to play the Timberwolves, but now I'm just like, the Clippers seem like a rough match. From all the analysis I've been seeing about it, it seems like the Clippers will be a tough matchup for the Nuggets as well. A very tough matchup. So, yeah, if the Nuggets can get past the Clippers, then they probably have a shot at taking the whole thing. But I imagine Clippers could beat the Nuggets. I think I like to believe the Lakers will put away the Timberwolves. I like to believe the Warriors will upset the Rockets. OKC will probably get shit done on their end. And then over in the East, what is it? Bucks Pacers is round 1. I was seeing some things about how the Bucks have been doing well against them, or like Bucks with Dame. It depends on if Dame comes back early to some degree or whatever. Giannis has obviously been playing really well. I could see that being an upset. I think Detroit Knicks. I've heard that the Pistons could knock off the Knicks from the analysis I've been seeing. I've really not kept up with the Pistons at all, but I'm actually a little bit excited to see what they can do. Anyway, tune us up. Thanks for the 2. Morj, Fire Force anime is finally back. You watching? So it's funny because like when Fire Force Season 2 ended, I was actually very, very excited. I was like, shit, I really want to see what happens in Season 3. I surprisingly really liked Fire Force a lot more than I thought. And then I read the whole manga, finished the manga, and then after I finished the manga, I was very excited for Season 3 coming back. And it's just this thing where the hype train that you feel as a person is just, it's so momentum based, right? So like when Fire Force Season 2 ended, I was just like I have to see what happens next. Let me read the manga. Read the manga. I was like, that was cool. I really liked Fire Force's ending. I think Fire Force is one of the best endings of a series, period. Largely because you can tell it was so planned to segue into, you guys know what it segues into, right? So loved Fire Force's ending, was very excited to see the anime come back, and then I'm like, I gotta wait so long, and so like Season 3 finally comes back, and it's like, I will watch it, obviously, but I'm probably gonna wait for it to, I really want Season 4, honestly. Season 3's got some good stuff. Season 4 is where it's gonna get really cool. So it's kind of silly, but like I'm probably, even after all that waiting, I'm probably just gonna let it wait. I'm just gonna wait and binge it when the season's done. Aether, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 25 months, man. Loki chain unlocked, and we get a glimpse of fruit ability. Let me start putting some of these down. Sorry. I think that's maybe the first one. Yeah, that's the first prediction. Here, let's get that down. Okay. Aether says, here we go. Oh no, Mavahed Sadegi said... Okay, hold on. Let's go in order. Loki chain unlocked, and we get a glimpse of fruit ability. Alright, that's our first prediction. Loki chain unlocked, and we get glimpse of fruit ability. I don't know about that just because... How do I say this? Just because I feel like Oda's... Like, Loki's so injured. I feel like Oda's holding off on... I thought that we were going to get the big fruit reveal as soon as Loki was released, right? But instead... and, like, Loki starts off strong with summoning down lightning, going crazy, Monster Trio's freaking out, Elbaf's on fire, exciting shit. And then the very next chapter, it's like, he was bluffing, he can barely stand up. I feel like Oda is saving... And that was after so many... Like... Since chapter 1130, so 12, 13 chapters straight of build-up to Loki's release, and what will happen once he's released, and then he's released, and it's not that bad, right? Obviously because of the injury and everything, but I thought Oda was going to release Loki with a bang. He released him with, like, a fake bang, a little pop. I think that I think Oda's saving Loki's big ability and powers reveal for a little bit later in the story, when he's in better health and when it'll have more of an impact. I think honestly, right now, if Loki was released, like if Loki, because right now the situation with Loki is, if you, it makes sense at the end of the day why Oda didn't have Loki just released and start debuting his ability and freaking and like going off, because if you do that, the only characters Loki can fight are either he's fighting the Strats and the Monster Trio, and I don't know if Oda wants to, like, I think Loki's ultimately going to be a good guy or an ally at the end of the day. I don't think Oda actually, I think it was a long setup for basically Loki and Luffy to actually become friends, is what it's looking like. So that fight seems like it's not going to happen. So that was off the board. And then the other option would be Loki going off on the Gods Knights as a flex. But I don't think that can happen right now. I might be wrong in the next couple chapters, but I realize in retrospect that can't really happen right now, because this is the moment that we're establishing the Gods Knights as threats, as villains, right? So this is actually a whole sequence where we're getting to see the Gods Knights abilities. The Gods Knights abilities are what are wreaking havoc on the people of Elbaf and everything like that. The Gods Knights right now, it's their time to really shine and establish them as the big bad villains of the arc. If you have Loki come in and start swinging and like whatever, it's like one of two things can happen. Either the Gods Knights take out Loki, which sort of snuffs out the excitement of seeing Loki in full power and his fruit reveal right off the bat that had been built up to for so long. Or you have Loki drive away the Gods Knights, and then it's just like, all right, the Gods Knights, the first thing that happens to them is they get their ass kicked by Loki. And that doesn't seem to work exactly either. So ultimately, what's happening right now just makes sense, because we're getting two things at the same time that are really built up, which is Loki's release and what the Gods Knights were going to do to Elbaf. Turns out Loki's not a real villain in that traditional sense, at least as it seems at the moment. So Loki, that was like a false alarm. He's actually an injured dude that just needs some help. It's the Gods Knights, they're taking center stage as the main villains, so all the chaos is around them. They're the ones that are causing the majority of the problems. I still thought it was a really exciting chapter. That first chapter, that chapter that Oda dropped, it was a phenomenal chapter. The chapter that Oda dropped, where he had Loki released and the Gods Knights start their plan at the same time. I think it was concurrent. And what happened was like Loki immediately brought down just gigantic bolts of lightning on Elbaf. So like the tree was on fire, and the Monster Trio downstairs was like freaking out, and it was like, holy shit, we're getting Loki versus the Monster Trio here. And then upstairs, the Gods Knights were releasing their crazy abilities, and all the monsters were running wild, and like nobody could do anything about the monsters. That was such a phenomenal chapter, because it was like, oh shit, the Strats might actually be, like, the Strats in the Nation of Elbaf are actually under serious pressure right here, because it's two villain-esque groups at the same time, and they're both occupying like the Monster Trio and the weaker Strats at the same time. It was a great chapter, great tension, great all that. After that, when it was somewhat revealed that, okay, Loki's actually not a problem, he's just going to serve as a distraction for the Monster Trio, that undercut the stakes of the situation, the tension of the situation a bit, but it's understandable why. Loki's not meant to be that guy. It was supposed to be a false scare for the moment. Anyway, I'm going too long on that. Let's continue on. Let's see. Justin Holland, what's up, man? Thanks for the 2. Nami going on the offensive, Loki lore. Let's see. Nami going on the offensive. I think these are a bit too broad. I'm going to leave off Loki lore. I can give you one. I'll give you one. Because it's just a bit too broad, right? So it's got to be a bit more specific. Can't be too generic. Justin, you don't have to. How about this? You don't have to super any. Just comment, and I'll catch your next comment about what you think Nami will do. I think that's fair. Mavahat Sadegi, thanks for the 2. Brooke asks Gunko to see your panties. That's a great guess. That's a phenomenal guess. Because it's basically there. He could just see it. Mr. MMF2, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 30 months, man. Yo, Mojussi, it's still so funny to me that Robin finally got a high bounty in the same arc that we find someone else who can read and write the poneglyphs. Yeah. I don't know. It's just not as rare nowadays, I think, because you get Pudding, you got Robin, Wait, who else are you talking about who could read and write the poneglyph? Are you talking about Pudding? Who else can read and write the poneglyphs? Am I fucking missing something? I might be missing something. I might have just forgotten. Isn't it just Pudding? In the same arc, we found someone else who can read and write the poneglyphs. Oh, is it Vegapunk? Are you talking about Vegapunk or like the Skull, like Saul or whoever? Like these guys? I fucking forgot about Vegapunk. Sukiyaki? I forgot. Wait, Sukiyaki? I forgot. Oh my god. There's actually, Loki, a lot of people who could fucking read the poneglyphs. It's a good thing Odin wasn't a studious child. Otherwise, he might have passed that shit on to Momonosuke. The voice, when they said the voice of all things allowed them to read the poneglyphs, that was an interesting thing way back. Or no, Odin could read the poneglyphs, right? Odin could read the poneglyphs too. I'm surprised Odin learned. I'm getting things mixed up a little bit now. So only Momonosuke. Momonosuke is the only uneducated one, right? So Sukiyaki, you got someone there. Sukiyaki's got a lot of reasons to be in hiding. That's kind of funny. He's like, I don't want any smoke with anybody. I'm not the former shogun. I certainly can't read no poneglyphs, was it? Yeah, I never heard of them. So Sukiyaki's a funny dude. Yeah, we got Sukiyaki. Can Saul read poneglyphs? Saul, Vegapunk, Sukiyaki. Yeah, a lot of people can. This is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. Eric J.O., thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 18 months, man. Sup, Morj. Not sure if you knew this, but YouTubers with memberships enables are able to gift their chat a few every month for free. Morjcast is fire content. I think I do know how to do that. Or no, I don't know how to do that, but I do think that's a thing. Let me see how I can do that. And maybe I'll just make that a reward for, like, because we've already been doing mod for these guesses, but maybe this can be the better reward, which is getting the membership. For those of you who don't know, if you are a Yonko tier member or up, you get the Morjcasts. Morjcasts are basically podcasts that I drop alongside every video that has all my additional thoughts that go along with the video, as well as some thoughts on recent chapters and current events and everything. And it's basically everything that's scrapped from the cutting board of a normal script goes into the Morjcast, usually for reasons like being more speculative or more like ideas that I'm throwing around in my head, or ideas that kind of have to be cut for time or whatever, or ideas that are like leading to another video or another theory and things like that. I'm glad you enjoy the Morjcast because I have fun doing them, and it's fun to get my additional thoughts out without having it to be like super tightly structured. It's just like, yeah, if I'm thinking like this stuff is part of the reason that this is going to happen with Loki, I might have additional reasons, but that are a little bit too fluid right now, or I'm waiting on some other events for them to come through, and then that'll go in the Morjcast instead as basically ideas like to chew on. So yeah, if you guys are interested, it's a podcast that comes out every Tuesday. Please feel free to join. Let me see, how can I gift memberships? How can YouTuber gift membership to viewers? Okay, so it's viewers who are subscribed. How do I do this? I'd have to watch a little YouTube. Okay, I'm gonna make a note because now I've started doing stream notes, so I don't forget these things. I'm gonna ask. I'm going to find out how to gift memberships, and then we can do a little, I think anybody who wins the predictions can get to pick if they want to be mod or get membership. I think that could be a fun thing to do. That could be a nice, easy in-between. Maybe I can just click someone and get it. Let's try. No, I can't. Maybe I'm sure there's an easy way. The Final Storm, thanks for the 5. Can you fathom how hilarious it is as a manga reader for me Watching One Piece episode 1125 reactions and anime onlys are so hyped, saying how Zoro will body Lucci. Is that what happens in the latest episode? I didn't watch it. Is it a good episode? I don't know if... Okay, somebody tell me, how much did 1125 cover? Did it cover a full chapter? Or are we back to the 0.75? I think I'm down to keep watching Egghead if I can... if it's at a pace of 1 chapter per episode or faster. 1 chapter per episode or faster, I would be down to watch it. Egghead does a lot of really good little production things that keep it entertaining, even if it's a slow pace. Yeah, anime. Everyone, it's a funny cycle because it's just Zoro fans all set themselves up, and now it's the anime only version of Zoro fans setting themselves up. Because I just remember the talk of how Zoro would body Lucci. It all started. It didn't even start when the Zoro Lucci matchup happened. Okay, it's actually the funniest thing in the world. It started after Luffy beat Lucci. And then it was Luffy and Zoro sitting on the couch in Vegapunk's room or whatever, chilling. They're guarding Lucci and Kaku, and the Seraphim break in. That's around that period of time is when the Zoro would body Lucci talks began, like, en masse. Because it was like, look, Luffy and Zoro, like... the conversations began because like Luffy, Zoro are talking to Lucci and Kaku and stuff like that. Zoro's already beaten Kaku, so there's nothing to really discuss there or whatever. And it was just like Luffy already beat Lucci once. Like they're so not fazed by Lucci and Kaku. Ha ha ha. Like Zoro also knows he could just beat Lucci easily. And Luffy even makes some comment about like, don't be salty, Lucci, just because I beat you last time. Or like, oh, if I let him go, I'll just capture him again if I need to or whatever. And there was nothing to instigate it, right? That's the funny thing. It was just like, it's literally just Zoro being in the same room while Luffy's having these sort of conversations with Lucci, and Zoro fans are just like, yeah, and Zoro would body him too. It would be easy for Zoro too. It would be easy for Zoro. Zoro would one-shot him. It'd be easy for Zoro too. Zoro's not, like, it would also be a stomp for Zoro. That's just where the talk started. So it's just the funniest thing, because it's like, it's easy to talk shit about how those fights would go when it doesn't seem like it's a fight that's actually on the horizon, right? It's just like, oh, I can gas up Zoro because it's just like, I just assume that's what he would do. It'll never, like, Zoro fans don't fucking know that Zoro's actually gonna have to fight Lucci later, you know? It's kind of like, it's almost like a sports fan type of thing where it's like, I certainly know that in the past there have been times that I've just been like, yeah, if this player, like, I don't know, fucking LeBron ran into these guys in the playoffs, like, oh, they'd fucking smoke him. It wouldn't be close. It would, like, obviously LeBron will handle it, or obviously Steph will beat him or whatever. Like, obviously this, blah, 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 blah. And then the playoffs actually roll around, and it's like, you're looking at the seeding, it's like, oh, shit, the Lakers were actually going to have to play them. Okay, well, I guess... now I guess we'll find out. And then the Zoro versus Lucci matchup happened. Like, it actually got started in the manga. And I remember right then it was just like, oh, so like all that shit talk, I guess we're going to find out. But the prevailing attitude, I still remember the manga at the time, including for myself, was Zoro shouldn't have problems with this. And I was someone who legitimately believed that Zoro would beat, like, that this was all a stalling thing. I thought that Luffy's going to fight Kizaru, Zoro's going to fight Lucci, and these are the preliminary matchups in that. Because that was correct, by the way, which was that Luffy versus Kizaru was a preliminary matchup. His final fights for the arc were against the Gorosei, Saturn and the Gorosei, basically, right? Kizaru was like a warm-up fight before everybody else showed up, right? I thought the same thing about Zoro. I thought Zoro's going to fight Lucci, Luffy will fight Kizaru. This is cool. Like, Oda's having them do these warm-up fights for the arc. I actually, low-key, a part of me even thought that Oda might do like a little... Because Sanji didn't get a matchup, right? So I actually, low-key, like, part of me was thinking, like, Saturn is obviously going to... We didn't know the other Gorosei are arriving, but Saturn was obviously being built up as, like, the primary villain of the story. So I was thinking that Luffy versus Kizaru is going to happen as a warm-up. Zoro versus Lucci is going to happen as a warm-up. And then probably Luffy is going to move on to fight Saturn, who seems like the true antagonist of the arc, which did happen. I did not expect the rest of the Gorosei to show up, and it became like a huge thing. But Luffy versus Saturn did happen. And I thought that Zoro would then move on to taking on Kizaru. I thought maybe we'll get some swapping of opponents here. Like Luffy's like, okay, I no more dealing with Kizaru. I got to deal with Saturn or something. I thought Zoro finish dealing with Lucci, move on to Kizaru. And then I thought if Lucci's got another round in him, maybe Sanji fights Lucci. And then we get to see all three of the monster trio take a crack at Lucci or whatever and just pass him around. Or Zoro and Sanji versus Kizaru. That was my other thought. I thought that Zoro and Sanji might take Kizaru while Luffy fights Saturn, stuff like that. In reality, what happened is that, like, Luffy versus Kizaru, it was Luffy's warm-up fight, but it was also the only, like, extended fight he really got. And then Luffy versus the Gorosei was, like, some weird inconclusive shit. And then Zoro versus Lucci turned out to not be Zoro's warm-up fight. It was just, like, a fight that took him, like, 20 chapters, way longer than Luffy versus Kizaru, longer than Luffy versus Saturn round 1. It was a fight that he was just in it for a while. It was low-key one of Zoro's longest fights in the story. Yeah, so I think a lot of us who expected Zoro to wrap that up pretty fast, we just found out that sometimes you just gas up a character sometimes you gas up a character too hard, and then you find out that the author's vision doesn't exactly align with your assumptions about what that character should be able to do. So, yeah. It's kind of like how I talk a lot about how Zoro is clearly stronger than Law, and I'm very confident in that belief that Zoro is stronger than Law. I think it's fucking obvious. I'll tell you right now, though. If for some reason in like 20 chapters down the line at the end of Elbaf, like we get this matchup between like Law and Zoro or something, like let's just say that happens to happen. I don't know, Davey backfight or something. I'll admit right now, I'll be sweating. I'll be like, fuck. I've shit talked Law so long and talked about Zoro so much better than him for so long. What if it's not true? What if Zoro just loses? What if Law's the better swordsman? Who knows? I'd be like, okay, I've felt really good about this whole time, but now that it's actually happening, like, maybe it goes the other way. Who knows? I don't know. You never know. Anyway, let's see. Zoldan says, I think you might have missed my super. Let me catch up. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, I see. Favorite teams. Tuna sub. I bounty in the same arc. Oh no, Zoldan, you're next. You're just next. Zoldan, thanks for the 2. Hi, Morj. Have you seen the new One Piece episode? No. Wait. Yeah, how long is it? How long is it? Let me see. Marimo the Bushido says, but he wasn't really struggling against Lucci, though. Considering your name is Marimo the Bushido, I don't know if you will be able to examine that fight with the most unbiased eyes. That's like saying Zoro the Zoro. All right, continuing on. I'm trying to see how long. It's one full chapter. Okay, so they're keeping up a pace of a full chapter. Is that right? They're keeping up a pace of a full chapter so far? Akash Panda says, Morj, you have been through raid fail. You'll handle it just fine. Chill. That's different. That's a theory. That's so much bigger. That's like a theory that, like, the whole, like, quality of in my, like, that's just a theory that goes to, like, the very heart of like, the story of One Piece itself, right? Like, how is this narrative of Wano, like, what's it about? Like, what's the story arc here? What's the structure, whatever? This is just power scaling takes. Power scaling takes are very different. It is very different to be just straight up fundamentally wrong about a power scaling take, because power scaling takes are more so, they're not about what happens next, right? Power scaling takes are more so like, what do you interpret the story so far to have, like, having a theory is more so like, I believe that this is sort of like the direction the story is supposed to be headed. But at the end of the day, no one can see the future, right? But power scaling is different. Because we all can fucking read the past. You know what I'm saying? Like, if, like, you should be able to read One Piece up to this point and be like, oh, Zoro fights King, Jinbei fights fucking who's who, Zoro is fucking stronger than Jinbei, right? Like, that's just, power scaling is just your interpretation, not even interpretation, it's just being able to understand what has happened so far and what is the hierarchy the author is setting up, right? In the story so far, right? Power scaling, it's like, it's similar to analysis in a sense, just more of a meathead version of it, right? So it's very different to like find out that your analysis of, because like we all know that we have our personal biases when it comes to power scaling. It just is what it is. So it just hurts in a sense when you find out that your previous analysis of which character is supposed to be stronger than which character and what the author has been presenting us so far about characters' abilities, feats, etc., has just been incorrect, and likely incorrect because of your own personal biases, right? So that's different. I will say this. One of the cool things about One Piece, and one of the reasons that one of the reasons that One Piece's power scaling debates go on so long, because I was about to just make a claim, which is that I don't think I've been wrong about certain power scaling takes as of yet. There have been ones that I've adjusted. I think one of the things that frustrates me with... No. I've been wrong, but there are ones that I've adjusted, and I think the things that have frustrated me in the past are when people don't adjust their power scaling takes based on what happens. Like, for example, I used to believe Aokiji was above Garp. Then the Hachinosu raid happened, and I fucking adjusted based on the events that took place, and I was like, okay, no. So it looks like Garp is above Aokiji, and I adjusted that. And then to my shock, like, a lot of people are really dug in to their takes, and they're just like trying to do like the most complex mental gymnastics to explain that, like, despite Oda spelling it out for us over and over in every conceivable fashion, even through Aokiji's own mouth, that he is not as strong as Garp, that despite this whole Hachinosu raid, Aokiji is still somehow above Garp. That's the thing that, like, is a big red flag for me in terms of, like, people's power scaling stuff, because it's like, oh, so some things can straight up happen in the manga, and then certain people are so dug in that they will just ignore it, right? The big thing I was saying that's cool about One Piece's power scaling is that it gets very, very heated because Oda has pushed all of the most anticipated fights and matchups and, like, the real question marks we have, which is, like, how does Shanks stack up with, like, Dragon or, like, Mihawk or, like, Akainu versus this person, that, like, all of the most anticipated things Oda has been saving for a very, 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 very long time. Like, an extraordinarily long time. More so than any other mangaka. It is, like, Aokiji versus Garp is probably the only high-level matchup that we've seen in One Piece, like, on screen. I don't know, like, outside of Luffy himself, it's the only high-level matchup that we've seen in One Piece in, like, I don't even know, like, all of post-time skip. We got to see a bit of Kaido and Big Mom, just enough for Oda to establish that they're relatively comparable to one another, relatively equal, and I think that's it. So that's why One Piece's power scaling is so heated, and that's why, like, people have such strong opinions, because, like, we're all trying to analyze what Oda is establishing with the strength of these characters based on all of this, like, 1,000 chapters, 1,100 chapters of data, etc. And now we're all just waiting to find out who is right about their takes, their analysis of, like, who's above whom, right? So I was wrong about Aokiji and Garp, but at least I adjusted after I found out about that, right? It's shocking to me that a lot of people don't do that. I was wrong about Lucci also, because I was one of the people that thought that Zoro would body Lucci pretty comfortably. Lucci is stronger than I thought. Although, even when I was doing the top 30 after Lucci lost to Luffy, I said that Lucci is stronger than a lot of people think. Losing to Luffy doesn't make him look that bad because Luffy's a Yonko. So I wasn't actually too off about Lucci. I did think Zoro would have an easier time. I don't think there's been any power scaling take that I've been extremely incorrect about. Or, like, definitely, like, sharply incorrect about. I think I've been I think like the gap in my mind between like Kid and Law and other characters has been correct, but because Shanks like just demolished Kid. But to be fair, Law didn't have that happen to him, but Law also fought an easier opponent, so we still have, the jury's still out about that. Sabo is one I'm still waiting on to find out how correct I am about Sabo being overrated. Sabo's been training though, so I think we still need to find that out. Anyway, that's enough. All right, continuing on. All right. Aespa Comeback says, for me, power scaling is just fun. As kids, we talk about stuff like Goku versus Superman. It's just fun in a childlike way. I mean, I think it's almost like, I just think it's straight up pretentious to pretend that power scaling doesn't matter. One Piece is just, it's an action, like, it's fights after fight. It's like a shonen fucking fight series where characters get stronger and stronger and get power-ups and power-ups. The main character's, one of his primary motivation is to get stronger and stronger so that he can fucking be free and protect his friends. The fucking Deuteragonist Zoro's fucking motivation is to become the world's strongest. Like, it's a fucking series where every single arc ends with the main character fighting the bad guy in some sort of extended battle or whatever to get stronger and keep moving up in the world. The story is actually very explicitly about, like, his fucking main character growth halfway through the story in Marineford is, I need to train to get stronger. This is like, One Piece is just Dragon Ball Z, but with better writing, okay? Like, let's not get it twisted. I think it's so fucking pretentious. Like, if you really want to read stories that don't have, like, where, just anytime One Piece fans pretend that they're above power scaling or caring who's stronger than who or like getting into those debates, it's just like, you are a fucking liar. You are such a fucking liar. There's so many other series. Like, if you genuinely just want to read One Piece for the story, right? Because One Piece has a phenomenal story, but it's a story that's built around all of these fights, right? It's built around all of these fights. There are a million other things you could be reading that would be like genuine, true literature that don't have all of this silly power scaling. But I'm like a content creator. I fucking see when chapters are hype, when viewership is high, when people get excited. It's chapters that have strong characters doing shit against other strong characters, or shit that gets people like really excited about these discussions. That's the truth of it. If you take out the fights from every fucking One Piece arc, One Piece would have like 5% of the if every One Piece arc didn't end with fights, if you removed Luffy, like the thing, like the whole fucking story of Wano, remove Luffy versus Kaido, right? Remove the fights against the Tobiropa, blah 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 blah. People talk about Wano being good because they like the fucking fights at the end, right? You remove, like, go through fucking any arc in One Piece, remove the fights. One Piece has 10% of the fan base that it does. 10%, not even fucking close. Like, it is just true. If you remove all the fights from One Piece, the series it's just a totally fucking different series with a far more niche fan base, not a worldwide phenomenon, certainly not the most popular manga in Japan. Certainly most of you guys are not fans of it. That's just the way it is. And you guys can pretend otherwise, but it's not the case. All right? That being said, some people can go too far with power scaling. I just hate the take when people, like, we are reading a shonen about pirates fighting each other over treasure and getting power-ups and getting stronger so that the main character can become the strongest in the world and beat up the bad guy. That's what the story is. It has beautiful themes, beautiful character writing woven into that story, but we are not just reading for those themes and character writing. That is not the case. All right, continuing. Continuing on. Let me catch all these predictions. Hold on. Denzel Franklin, I'm sorry. Thank you for the one. I appreciate it. JWP, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 28 months. Thank you for the long-time support, of course, man. Morj, man, Scopper Gabon makes contact with a Holy Knight. Oh, that would be cool. I love that prediction. Did Justin Holland give his other comment? I forgot. Did Justin, you there? Vicuna Leather, thanks for the 2. Pariston is my most anticipated power in fiction. You saying from Hunter x Hunter? Most anticipated character or power reveal in fiction? I assume something like that. This might be a weird take. I am not that interested. I think Periston will be an interesting character. I don't find Periston to be that compelling of a character just yet. I feel like, I don't know. I felt like Togashi, I felt like the way Togashi handled Periston was weird, where like he had to tell, like, it was, I don't think Periston ever did anything in the story that ever felt like that brilliant or clever. But I think I don't like it when Togashi, when in general, when authors have to spell out a lot of a character's traits for us. And I thought that was the case with Periston a lot. Like, I was waiting for something really, like, to click with Periston, like, oh, that's really cool or sinister or cunning or something like that. But instead it was like, the entire arc was a lot of Togashi saying, like, Periston, a man that's so mysterious and clever. Like, characters just said stuff about him a lot. Like, so conniving, genius, what's he scheming, blah, 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 blah. Like, just so much talking up how much of a wild card or how clever or how devious this character was. And on paper it was like, okay, so it'll be like a really interesting chess match between him and Jing. The Hunter Association election arc never felt like a chess match. It just felt kind of sloppy to me, a lot of it. And at the end, it was kind of like Periston's master plan. Like, maybe it was supposed to be a huge twist what he was actually thinking the whole time, but it didn't feel that. There was just never, I can't think of any interesting Periston moment, really. Like, I would love for this character to develop the way that, like, to show us what Togashi keeps telling us he is. It was just, I don't care for a character, like, I'm not going to be hyped up by a character just because Togashi keeps saying, like, having other characters describe him a certain way. Like, you need to communicate that through the story, you know what I mean? Monte, thanks for the 2. Very mild prediction, but Gunko kidnaps Colin. Yeah, I think that's a good enough prediction. I still can't believe the name's Colin, but that's okay. Different languages, huh? Attilio, thanks for the 2. Have you straightened your hair before? I want emo Morj. I don't think I straightened my hair, but I'm just pushing it back because I'm just tired of it being in my eyes at this point. Denzel Franklin, thanks for the 5. I predict the man marked by flames is on the ship that the God's Knights will attempt to leave on. Oh, you think the man? Oh shit, that's interesting. You think he's here next chapter? The man marked by flames is on the ship that the God's Knights will attempt to leave on. That'd be interesting. You think he is a God's Knight then? That'd be cool. That's actually I like that one a lot. That's a really interesting call. If it's because we haven't seen the ship just yet, right? That would be such a cool call. If you get that right, that's a phenomenal call. Because there is a mysterious ship that they're heading towards. We just don't know what that ship is yet. I love that. That would put 2 and 2 together. Love that call. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Ola Femi 96, thanks for the 2. Will the One Piece world soon find out about Im? I think by the end of this, I don't know if by the end of this arc, I think certain events are going to happen all at once. So I think that, like, I feel like we've had past storylines where there's like a big sort of revelation that makes, that wakes up everybody, the general populace, right? In Dressrosa is obviously Sugar's effect wearing off and everyone waking up, and then Doflamingo doing the birdcage, and everyone being like, holy shit, Doflamingo's actually really evil, and we need to escape this birdcage, right? In Skypiea, the citizens, they obviously knew about Enel, and they knew he's a bad guy, but it was once he started using Maxim to start to destroy Skypiea and everything that they were like, oh shit, we need to wake up, like, he's actually a fucking maniac, he's gonna kill us, right? I think there often needs to be some sort of trigger moment. I feel like it's possible for maximum impact, Oda will make the big reveal moment for the world all happen in one go. So I think Vegapunk's speech was kind of the pre-framing for the people of the world. that like, hey, there's some bad shit that's coming that you all don't understand, or there's more to the world that you guys understand, and prepare yourself for some flooding. So that's got everyone on high alert. It pre-frames them. I feel like there's a big trigger moment coming where the world government, the Celestial Dragons specifically, will begin using their ancient weapon more openly and begin their great cleansing of the world and start targeting more islands. And then people will realize, and at that same time, I think the revelation will come that there is an evil god who's been ruling the world for 800 years, Emu, and he is going to just try and erase everybody. I think that will all come in one big event and be kind of a turning point where everybody realizes, oh shit, the world is not what we thought. We're all going to get killed. We need somebody to fucking save us, and enter the Hope, Luffy, Straw Hats, Luffy's Alliance, etc. Basically, I think that will all come in one go. So I don't know if that's what happens at the climax of Elbaf or partway through the next arc, whenever the final war is going. Ace but comeback, thanks for this question. Thanks for the 2. Thoughts on Steel Ball Run? Art looks low cost, not gonna lie. Let me look at the Steel Ball Run visual again. Steel Ball Run anime, because I did look at the visual. I don't know how much stock to put into the visual just yet. I felt like JoJo's animation to me was at its peak in Golden Wind. I think for me with JoJo's the thing, yeah, I think looking at part 6, it's by the same studio, so it's always been by David Productions or something like that, right? As far as I know. So to me, part 6 had worse animation because I felt like it was a lot more stiff. I felt like there was just a lot less movement, a lot more just stillness. Whereas with part 5, everything felt fluid. The very first scene, like the opening scene of like Giorno in Italy or whatever, and just like giving us a feel for Italy and him walking through it, that felt really magical and beautiful, right? And yeah, part 6, so I don't know what happened. And I don't know what happened. It's by the same studio. I don't think I would enjoy... I think part 7 definitely deserves whatever level of care part 5 got. I know part 6, some of the complaints were about Netflix, but ultimately the studio is the same, right? Does that anybody with knowledge of JoJo's production, animation production, want to feel free to chime in who might know better? But my understanding is that the studio was the same. It's been the same producing JoJo's. So maybe different group of animators, maybe just less time. I know that time is a huge factor when it comes to animation. Maybe it's Netflix's batch release or something like that. The one thing I'll say it seems like this is going to be on Netflix again. The one thing I'll say is that I'm personally not somebody that minds batch releases of anime because, especially for JoJo's, I've always been able to binge every part. Like I got to binge part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. I think I would get tired waiting episode to episode for like a fight to conclude, I think. But I understand that there's a culture that was built around JoJo Fridays that people miss. So, you know, I think I will always be happy with being able to just binge an anime. I like being able to binge anime all in one go. But if that interfered with the animation schedule, then that would be a problem. Yeah, I just don't like part 6's... Yeah, Tom says, bruh, it's one still image. Yeah, I think it's too much to judge animation off of one still image, obviously. But the one thing I will say is that... So I read part 7, and I read it in color. And part 7 in color is genuinely, like... It is so beautiful. Like, it is... visually really, really, really just a treat to read. So anytime you're going from something that like if you're animating like Demon Slayer where the art is ass and you're elevating it so high in terms of the anime production, it's like it's not an easy job. I don't mean that, but like it's the bar is so low that you can do this. The sky's the limit, and Demon Slayer obviously makes great use of that, right? Even something like Jujutsu Kaisen, where I mean the art for Jujutsu Kaisen's manga is good, but I don't think of it anything as like phenomenal. But then what the animation does for it really, really elevates it, in my opinion. But then once you're getting to stuff like JoJo's Part 7, which is already in color, a really, 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 like, really unique art style, and paints a really unique tapestry, especially some of the ending sections. You want an anime to be able to capture that, because that's part of what produces the feel and the magic of Part 7, I think. So it's the same reason that, like, even though we can all agree that Berserk has an amazing story and amazing writing, the art and the visuals and the scene direction of the manga are also a huge component of what gives it its substance. So you need an anime to match that, which is not really easy to do. So I don't know. Part 6, I read it in the manga first. I read that one in color. Part 6 was the first JoJo's part that I read. And I felt like the manga was stronger than the anime. And at the same time, I feel like the manga for Part 6 wasn't even that good until the final third. So, yeah, but you know what? That's my biggest thing with Part 6, which is that I felt like in the manga, the final third was the strongest. And there were certain fights that I was really looking forward to seeing animated in Part 6 anime. And when I got to them in the anime, it felt so lifeless comparatively. I think the one thing they nailed is the final couple episodes. I think they nailed that pretty well from what I can recall. But yeah, there's still just I think Part 6 is the only part of JoJo's that has stand fights that I don't feel like ever going back to revisit any of the episodes, because I'm just like, it feels very stiff. I think stiff is just the word that I keep reusing, but it doesn't feel like I'll be in for like an animated like a fun animated display or anything like that. Anyway, sorry, long what do you call? Long dissertation on that. Kuro, thanks to the 5. Off topic, but you should play Armored Core 6. Still has that FromSoft magic, and open area / mission select format is a breath of fresh air. I'm probably not going to play that just because, like, number one, I feel... Okay. I'll get to... I think I should give my worst reasons last. I think that's one of... I think I like to give my more hot take reasons first, and then go to reasonable things. So let me flip it around for this. Okay, reasonable take first, which is, it's a shooter type game. I'm not big on shooters, right? Even if shooting's not a huge component of it, the reality is that there are many video games that I would like to play, single player video games that I would like to play. And even if Armored Core 6 is a good game, I'm probably not going to play that before I play Elden Ring. There are several other games that I'm probably more likely to, like, playing video games is a long journey usually, right? Like somewhere between 30 to 60 hours or even more, right? So it's a big commitment to be like, it's not like just being like, oh, try this movie or try this TV show or something. Like, playing games costs money, and it's a big time sink too. So even if Armored Core 6 is a good game that I'm sure it's a good game, but even if it's a game that I end up liking, I'm probably not going to catapult it up the list of games I would like to play first, like an Elden Ring, like a Ghost of Tsushima, like even like a Black Myth Wukong. Or I still want to play like Baldur's Gate, for example. Like, there's several games that I want to get to next. I'm probably not going to put Armored Core 6 up there. As for my bad reason for why I don't want to play Armored Core 6 is I want From Software to just exclusively keep putting out dedicated From Software single player experiences that are like Souls games, like Dark Souls, or even like a Sekiro or like Bloodborne. I want them to keep making that. To me, that's the thing I like. All right, I want them to keep making that. I don't want to play Night Rain I don't want to play Dusk Bloods, even though they're kind of similar or whatever. They're still kind of adjacent to the Dark Souls single player experience or whatever. I certainly don't want to play Armored Core. Like, I don't want them to go into mech shooter territory or whatever. I just want them to keep putting out the type of game I want them to put out. So I refuse to support them financially, monetarily, for any of their other games. I hope those games bomb. I hope they don't succeed, so that From Software goes, oh, you know what? We should just work on Bloodborne 2 or Sekiro 2. Not literally those same IPs, but like games like those. Like, just give me another good-ass single-player Souls-like game where I get to have a sword and go through levels and fight bosses with my sword at the end and explore a little bit. Just give me that every 3-4 years forever, and I'll be happy. That's all. I don't need these mech things. I don't need these multiplayer roguelike things. I don't know what these things are. I want them to fail so that FromSoft is discouraged from making them in the future and just focuses on the thing that I like. That's my shitty take, but that's what I want. It's selfish, but that's what I would like for the company. I would like for everything that they do that is not to my, like, that is not Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring-esque to not succeed, so that they just pivot and do the things that we've been eating up for years. That's it. That's it. That's it. I don't think that's even the worst thing to say, right? Is it that bad to say? Because it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like, you know how like everybody is like George R.R. Martin fans, like A Song of Ice and Fire fans are like, George, please make Winds of Winter. And George is like, you want Winds of Winter, but what if I wrote this random shit about, like, I mean, I fucking bought it. I'm an idiot. Like, the fucking 15th, like, Targaryen family from 1500 years ago. Or this random knight from, like, 400 years ago or something. Or, like, this random, I don't know, like, House Stark, like, the first Stark ever or something. Like, he just makes so much other random shit, but not the thing that everybody wants, right? But why does he do that? Because he makes so much money off the other shit. Because people eat it up, including me. I fucking watched House of the Dragon. I liked both seasons, even season 2, which people said was bad. I liked that one. I fucking bought the Fire and Blood book or whatever because I wanted to see what happens in the future in House of the Dragon or whatever. So he puts out this other stuff, and then we eat it up, and he's like, oh, look, I get money. I get so much money. Why would I do Winds of Winter? So, yeah. That's my only thought. Anyway, let's continue on. Yeah, also George R.R. Martin working on Elden Ring. Okay. Philly, thanks for being a parking tier member for 16 months. We got a smoker teaser in 1146. I can dream. A smoker teaser in 1146. Shit, we did? Oh, no, we didn't. I read did. I was like, what? I'm so confused. How do you know? How do you see the future? It would be awesome if we got a smoker teaser. If we get that, you're a genius. Smoker teaser in 1146. Philly. If he shows up at all, even in the cover story, I'll give you props for that. All right. Oh, shit. Why'd my stream cut? No. Internet, please. All right, we're good. Weather report fights were fire. The fight that I was really looking forward to from part 6, you know the fight I was really looking forward to? It's one of my favorite JoJo's fights ever in the manga. It was the one with the guy that can bring fiction, like storybooks stuff to life. That fight was really, like, the Three Wolves stories and stuff like that. That's a really fucking cool stand. I didn't like how they did the fight in the anime, and that was one that I was actually waiting on. I was really excited for that. Hard to say if Oda even remembers Smoker. Yeah. Yeah. Tom Tom says Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, that one was really exciting. That one was really exciting. Like, to me, that was like a really, really cool. I don't know how to like, just a cool stand, a cool concept of a stand, and a really cool way to resolve it. I think that's always my favorite. So with me, for me with JoJo's fights, I think a lot goes into the stand experience. Like, what the stand is always really exciting. But for me, a lot of the excitement of it is how the fight is resolved, right? So, like, a really cool resolution to the fight, like a clever way to win it. That's usually my favorite. That's usually my favorite part of a good JoJo's fight. Like, what is the trick? I think JoJo sometimes stretches with the way it resolves fights. But I like the way it resolved Bohemian Rhapsody really well. What is this? Mr. Borja Parada, prediction. We see giants from the upper realm that we haven't seen yet. They're wondering what the fuck is happening down below. Oh, shit. The heavens realm. That's a great idea. Heavens realm. Wondering what is going on down below. I still to date have no idea what is going on with Heaven's Realm and what is going on with that Louis are not warning at the end of it. Mr. Borja Parada. I'm excited about Heaven's, like, well, do we actually, Heaven's Realm is confusing. Heaven's Realm is confusing because it doesn't seem like there's any other ruling power, but it just does. It's there. It doesn't really make sense. Oof says Gunko fangirls over Brook. I think that's a good prediction. The cover page for Smoker, that was like a while back, right? That was some time back. I believe that there is a deeper purpose to Smoker just because so many of Oda's old school characters have had a deeper purpose, right? Like, characters that he's had long running for such a extended period of time. Kobe, Helmeppo, Dragon, Shanks, like all these OG characters, Sabo, all the Marines that he's kept around for so long. Like, you can't tell me Aokiji, Kizaru, these guys have such important stories that are becoming relevant right now. Fucking Sentomaru, Kuma, and then Smoker is just this guy. Like, Smoker was low-key, if you look at it, like, Logtown, Little Garden, he's there a little bit. Alabasta, obviously Impel Down Marine, or obviously Marine Ford, huge in Punk Hazard. Like, he's such a constant in the story. It's just strange to me, like, why would he be the one character that Oda had nothing planned for long term? Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Are not warnings similar to Thriller Bark creatures? It's different because, like, the Thriller Bark creatures was a play on, like, it was a closing thing as they exited the arc. So you're leaving the story. And it's just a play on, like, the horror movie teaser. Like, horror movies like to tease at the end, like, something extra. It's like something extra scary or something like that maybe you get a glimpse of, maybe you don't very often, but they like to leave you with a little bit of a scare, right? And ultimately, it's just at the end of the arc, once all is said and done, plot is wrapped, you're exiting, right? Louis Arnott's came very, very early, like as we're entering Elbaf, so it's framing us for the storyline of Elbaf. It's really strange if that's something that didn't actually mean anything. That's really bizarre. Especially because the other big difference is that, like, with Thriller Bark, we at least got to understand why, like, oh, there's big monsters there that that people used to run into even before Gekko Moria was here, right? There's big monsters. Whereas with Louis Arnott's thing, it's like, are we ever even going to find out what the fuck he was talking about? Like, are we going to get to see a shot of big monsters? I don't know. L, thanks for the 2. Shanks talks with his pops, Garling. Oh, that'd be a crazy call if you're right about that. Shanks talks with Garling. I don't know if that's happening anytime soon. I do think that we will see Garling and or Shamrock very soon because I'm convinced that Shamrock was sent back home for a promotion. Prophet says because he's a pre-time skip character and the final saga is Oda's 5-year plan stretched out, a lot of pre-time skip is going to be relevant soon. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, characters that Oda was planting early on, like, to me, if you look back in the story, I think it's very interesting that the characters that Oda planted very early on are all the characters that are most relevant now, right? Obviously, they're early Straw Hats, but then who are we getting right off the bat? Shanks, Mihawk, Dragon, Buggy. Like, these are all characters that are still very, very fucking relevant today, right? Blackbeard, right? Those are the characters that still really, really matter. And then as we keep going, we get Marines, yada yada, like important Marines, like Admirals, etc. Kobe, obviously, right off the bat. Garp, right off the bat. Like, these are characters that are still active, relevant today. The characters that kind of like came and went were characters that were like introduced much later in the story, like Kaido, Big Mom, like towards the end of pre-time skip, Doflamingo. They're like the villains that are in the set to be like introduced like about a third of the way through the story, and then they're supposed to close out about 2/3 of the way the story, because the bigger picture, it seems like, never really shifted that much. Oh, L says you meant Shamrock. Oh, okay, that's actually very, very possible. Shamrock talks with Garling. Oh, I must have misread that. Oh, I just misread. I didn't even realize you said Skanks. My bad. Teptu Treviso with a good point. Oda loved to add in parallels to Emu, which dragged in the story. Yeah, we got a lot of parallels to Emu. A lot of parallels to Emu as the story went. Quiet says, how do you feel about Dragon? So there's like an interesting little theory that's been going around. I think I talked about it even recently, which is like Dragon being the son of Rocks, which is extremely interesting. Not necessarily for Dragon himself. It's interesting for Dragon. It's more interesting for Luffy. It gives Luffy such an interesting lineage that he would, if he came from Rocksteady Zebek, and that's Luffy's grandfather. Because like, Luffy's had characters get pissed at him in the past for being Garp's grandson, right? Like in the like Colosseum and like people like fucking Chinjao and stuff like that. If Luffy's Rox's grandson, that would be really cool because it's just Luffy would be so different from his like it's been such a recurring theme in One Piece that the sins of the father are not the same as the son. Like you can come from a really bad bloodline but be a good person yourself, right? Like obviously Shanks is a good example of that. Yamato, I'll begrudgingly say, is a good example of that. Pudding, Lola, stuff like that. For it to be applied to the main character himself, that would be really cool. It's also interesting because like Ace, it makes Luffy and Ace's connection so much cooler too. I mean, it was already cool, but like just the notion that, I mean, that was even what they ranted about a lot during Marineford itself. It's like that's the son of Roger and that's the son of Dragon. They're the two worst criminals. You got to catch them both. How are they both adopted brothers? That's insane. Like this is the worst duo ever. Like son of Roger, son of Dragon. Like that's a interesting duo right there, right? But Roger's blood and Rox's blood, like the heir to Roger and the heir to Rox side by side as brothers, that's extra fascinating, right? Once you find, if it's revealed that Dragon really is the progeny of Rox, it just puts everything in even, like, the perspective it puts on everything is just so much more fascinating. Just the idea that, like, these two mortal enemies, like, yeah, Roger and Garp were mortal enemies, but they weren't mortal enemies. They're like, there was a frenemy sort of thing going on there. Roger and Rox are, like, genuinely like Luffy and Blackbeard, like oil and water, like two opposite sides of the spectrum, like dark and light, right? Like truly Roger's greatest and most hated foe is basically what was explained to us. Like a genuine bad dude pirate, right? If that turned out to be Luffy's grandfather, I think that'd be really, really fascinating. I don't think it's the case ultimately. I would need to read into it a little bit more to see if it makes any sort of sense and like do some of my own research. Akash Panda says, Morj, you said Luffy came from an egg. That's low key my favorite theory of all time. That's low key my favorite theory of all time. Because it's like, it's so absurd. It's so, it's so absurd. It's just like the most ridiculous theory. It's probably the most ridiculous One Piece theory I've ever put out. But at the same time, I maintain that it has some percent chance of being true. I think it has some percent chance of being true. Because I don't know where the fuck Luffy's mom is. I don't know where the fuck Luffy's mom is. And I don't know what the fuck happened to that egg that they had on the ship. I don't know what they had on that ship. I still maintain there's a solid 10% plus chance that Luffy came out of that egg. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Kosh Bendis says, what about Thomas Teapot? Thomas Teapot doesn't count. Because that's just a chapter review. That was a chapter review idea that I threw out. I don't think it was like a full video ever. Chapter reviews are just for speculation. It's not a video I'm sitting down to script or whatever. Chapter reviews, you just say thoughts that are first thoughts after a chapter. But full theory in terms of like a full thing that I sat down, spent time looking into, researching. I fucking read the story of Sun Wukong in a bit more depth, and I was like, oh shit, this dude came out of fucking egg or whatever, rock, blah 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 blah. I don't know. Mr. Nine says, I don't find a lot of narrative meaning in Luffy's lineage. That's fair too, because One Piece is a funny series because it like on the one hand it discourages, it's like it repeats the theme over and over of like not caring too much about lineages. But One Piece is also a series that is very, very, very obsessively focused on character lineages. Like it just is. Like fucking Momonosuke, Oden, Yamato, Kaido, Katakuri, Big Mom. Like over and over. Like name an important character and they've got some important father or some important child or something like that. It's so constant. Like it's just a thing in One Piece. It's a really, really, really regular thing. So Oda at the same time likes the idea, he at least likes the idea of like some traits passing over or like strength or talent passing over or like doing some sort of contrast or something with it. It's one of his favorite ideas. It's one of his go-tos, really. Schmeedy G says, if Scopper doesn't mention the egg at some point this arc, then Oda is just trolling. That, I would agree with that. I agree with that. Ryuma Zoro, yep. If Morj gets that Luffy egg theory right, he would unironically do a Bollywood dance from popping off so hard. I would be straight up confused if that egg theory is correct. It would be funny, though. Pin Zoro. Yeah, what do you guys think the egg is? Because I'm seeing Hidden Sun God says it might be an ancient dragon egg. That seems kind of random to me. I'm really curious what the egg would be. Because, like, if it's an ancient dragon egg, it's just like, so what? Why does it matter? Like, oh no, there's a dragon. Like, even in the lore shit, right? Like, if we look at the big mural lore, there's nothing that really would come out of that egg. The serpent thing? I don't know. Okay, Justin's got a more specific guess. Thanks, man. Nami, lightning, strikes Gunko, and triggers some memories in her. feel like it might be a bit early for something like that to happen, but that would be interesting. No, I'm not saying there's an egg in the mural. I'm saying, like, is there anything that would make sense as a creature coming out of the egg from the mural lore that we know? Either between the texts or the images itself. Brandon King says, Morj, the egg is needed to prepare the One Piece, the world's biggest breakfast. I don't know about that. Oh, shit, maybe the egg has... I did just have a thought of what could be in the egg, but it's a little complicated. It might be more of a theory. It does connect back to the video I dropped about the mural, though. Oof says, I really want the egg to just never be explained, to be honest. That's entirely possible, too. Never mind. No more talk about the egg. I think I got an idea of what it could be. But it's based off of the video I already did breaking down the mural. So I think that it could make sense. Let's get the stream likes to 100 real quick. Will Sanji die in the anime? Imagine if Toei just dislikes Sanji so much that they just kill him. Oh, Prophet with an interesting guess. Thanks for the 2-man. Dream Lightning activates facility Frankie's at. Dream Lightning. Oh, so you think like that thundercloud? I'll personally give you points even if it's not Dream Light. If the facility gets activated somehow, I think that'd be an interesting guess. What if the egg held big news Morgans? He's just a really important character secretly. Oof says, man, Toei's really on Sanji's ass, though. I think a telling moment for me will be... I think a telling moment would be, how does Toei do the Sanji Kizaru moment? Because for Sanji fans... that is Sanji's best moment. It's arguably his best feat in the story, right? So it's kind of important to do right, you know? Akash Panda, thanks as usual for the support, man. Thanks for the long time support. Thanks for the 5. What if Shanks' actual name is Fagarland Sham Paper and he has a little sister named Fagarland Sham Scissors for reasons? Will fit with Shamrock, lol. All right. I'm probably not going to put that down, but I appreciate the thought, man. That's a good guess. Yeah. Let's see how Toei does the Sanji Kizaru scene. Let's see how they do the Sanji Kizaru scene. Kizaru's face was too funny, says L. Yeah, it's funny because like Sanji, I think for a long time his best feat was the jelly bean, at least according to people. And I think Toei didn't do that the way that people wanted them to do that. At the same time, I think that's okay because like the jelly bean moment was low key. It was pretty quick in the manga. Like I don't think it was supposed to be a huge moment. I think Sanji fans just latched onto that. And there was a running train for a while that Sanji would eventually fight Katakuri. People felt like that was a matchup for him. And then it turned out it was for Luffy. However, Sanji blocking the laser is supposed to be a big deal because of the reaction that it gets from Kizaru. So we're supposed to take it as like, oh, that was something pretty significant. So let's see how the Sanji Kizaru scene goes down. A feat that hypes the hell out of Frankie. Frankie's laser just got upscaled. Yeah, this is one thing that's really interesting that I think gets overlooked a little bit in One Piece. So it's an interesting little phenomena where like different series with different power systems have different sort of standards for how significant something is, if that makes sense. So for example, in One Piece, being really physically strong is just like a baseline standard. Like characters from fucking East Blue are strong enough. Like Luffy was breaking down buildings and shit like that, and like he could punch out giant sea serpents from chapter 1, right? He could throw Momu, who's like a giant monster in most other series. Like he could throw Momu like miles away or some shit, like from Arlong Park or whatever, right? Luffy could break Arlong Park from the very beginning, right? Characters are very physically strong. Even like fucking Alabasta Luffy could punch through so many like meters of rock and like cause a miniature earthquake just with his fists, right? So in One Piece, physical strength is actually very, very standard, and like characters have a high degree of physical strength from the get-go. And it's a very much a physical fighting series. What's rarer in One Piece is like a type of ability that's pretty common in other series, which is like energy blast type things, if that makes sense. That's very rare in One Piece. So that was one of the reasons that Enel was such a big deal when he was first introduced into the story, because Enel was like a mini Dragon Ball Z type character that was dropped into One Piece, and that like he could shoot the One Piece version of a Kamehameha, right? And characters just couldn't fucking deal with that. So in One Piece, energy type abilities like lightning were written to be a huge deal right off the bat. Like if you could do lightning in one, like those NL type blasts, that's like a huge fucking deal. It's a similar phenomenon with lasers. So throughout One Piece, ever since the Pacifista did lasers, you'll notice that like throughout the story, like lasers are a very simple thing that pacifistas could do, but in the entire manga, I can't recall any character, even post Haki or whatever, actually directly blocking or deflecting pacifista lasers. Oda makes a big deal out of those lasers. There was a door that Sanji couldn't kick down in Punk Hazard that was made out of a material that was very difficult to break. I think it might have even been implied to be the similar material that Whitebeard had trouble breaking down. It might have been. Similar material that Whitebeard had trouble breaking down with his quakes. It was like impact resistant or whatever, that the walls they put up at Marineford. It might be the same thing. I don't know. That might be speculation. But Frankie's laser was able to break it down. And I think throughout the story, we never really see a character actually, like outside of Marco with his ability, we don't really see characters. It's rare seeing characters actually directly deal with lasers or energy blast type attacks. I think we still haven't seen a character that's not rubber deal with like a lightning blast attack either. I think that's something that still hasn't quite happened, unless I'm forgetting. So yeah, One Piece is just a series where Oda treats the idea of like energy beam, energy blast type attacks as like a really big deal. Flip side, you look at a series like Bleach, I've often given this example, where like Bleach, I think characters weren't as physically strong as One Piece characters early on, but energy type attacks like Ceros were very, very common right off the bat. Like, just very, very common. So Bleach obviously scales really high later on in the story. I'm not trying to compare One Piece versus to Bleach. It scales really high, but I'm just saying, like, for a little example, like One Piece will treat energy blast as a huge deal, but a series like Bleach or Fairy Tail or stuff like that or whatever, they might not have those, and like they might treat energy blast stuff as more common, but then characters don't have the same physical strength abilities that One Piece characters do, at least not till much later on in the story. So I just think that's interesting. Like Oda kind of decided very early on that, like, he decided a few things early on. He decided that elemental abilities are going to be a huge deal in this story, right? You look at other series, like elemental abilities like are very, very standard. But Oda kind of wrote One Piece with like, okay, right off the bat, characters are going to be physically really, really superhuman. Like, really superhuman is the base level for physical abilities. So One Piece was always like physically crazy strong characters. But elemental stuff is very rare. Energy blast type stuff is very rare. And that stuff is like actually the trickier stuff to deal with. And now finally, Haki is a big thing. And Haki is kind of like taking us to a whole different territory in terms of abilities. Tornado says, Morj, name one character who was taken out by lightning. I think lightning is for Oda is kind of like well, characters generally don't really die in One Piece either. But I think lightning for Oda is just like, it's a super effective ability that allows him to like not kill characters, but it's super effective in terms of the damage that it does. Like Nami doing Zeus's attack back at Big Mom, it didn't hurt Big Mom permanently, but it did like stun her in a sense, right? And that's kind of crazy. It just goes to show how strong lightning is in One Piece. That like even a powerhouse like Big Mom, it was actually a big deal that Big Mom wasn't even taken down by something like that, and everybody was like, "That's got to have taken her out because that's such a huge attack." Yeah, Prophet's best comparison is Naruto. They have AoE elemental attacks but die to paper bombs. Average One Piece Marine gets stepped on by a giant and survives somehow, lol. Yeah, like Naruto is a series that like the elemental attacks are very, very commonplace and they're like very, very frequent, but characters' physical stats are much lower. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Gunko will be able to cause the Strats to attack each other. Oh, that's a really creative thought. I like that idea. Oh, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Fuck, I forgot I was supposed to do one thing. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, I wonder how I think Oda wrote the scenario pretty well in that we can see how. I think God's Knights versus. I don't know if this batch of God's Knights how effective they'd be versus Monster Trio, but getting to see them flex against the mid to weaker group of Strats would be a good idea of how it gives us a good idea. Nami attacks Gunko with a really powerful lightning, and Gunko redirects it to Usopp. That'd be funny. That'd be really funny. YY7 says, guys, has it ever been said if Heaven Realm is connected to the Sky Islands in Elbaf? I personally think it will be, just because it's called Heaven Realm, and it looks like Heaven Realm is like on at the top of the canopy. Kid Smitty 94, thanks for the 5. Nami will use a lightning attack and accidentally start another fire. Eventually, Loki will get blamed for it. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Poor Loki. Nami will use lightning and start another fire. Loki will get blamed. That's interesting because Nami's a little bit nerfed then, because her toolkit is primarily lightning. Like, she's extremely nerfed. Although, to be fair, there's already a cloud traveling around that's shooting out lightning. So it's like, come on, let Nami use a little bit too. Oh shit, is the lag bad? Oh, you know why? It's because I'm fucking trying to upload something at the same time. It's almost done. It's almost done. It's almost done. It's 63%. The thing I'm uploading is actually the podcast for tomorrow. Maybe I shouldn't have picked this moment to upload it. That's my bad. I'm sorry about that. It's 66% uploaded. It's all 68. It's getting there. It's get 70%. I'll stop giving you guys updates. I think you guys won't like that. Nami whistling face. Yeah, I do believe that. I don't think Wiper's pulling up, guys. I don't know if that dream's happening. 85%. It's almost there. Just believe a little bit longer. Tornado says, can't you pause upload? It's on Slack. I don't know if I can. It's at 92%, 94%, 96%, 98%. It says processing uploaded file. I hate when it pretends to get to 100%, but then there's always some other bullshit step. All right, we're in the processing uploaded file stage, so just consider that 100%. Golden Spoon, thanks for the 2. Sanji will be forced to hit a woman by Gunko. Oh, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's literally impossible. Sanji's also not there, but I will put down your prediction. It's for the sake of the podcast tomorrow. It's for the sake of the Yod Couture members. All right, it's up. It's up. We should be good. Should be good. Is it stopped? There's no way it's stopped. I think the stream's good. I think the stream's all good. The stream's good. Come on. Oh, god damn it. Is the stream going? Are we back? Can you guys hear me? Are we live? What? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me? Please communicate. What's happening? Okay, it's back now? All right, it's back. All right, we're there. Teptir Treviso says, Morj somehow made his stream fucked up by doing something he could do later in the night. I was supposed to upload it for the editor before stream, and then I didn't. So I thought I could just upload it simultaneously, but apparently not. We're live. I had to refresh. Okay, we're all good. Oof says, Morj, give us points, spum. How is this got anything to do with points? You all are just upset because we've reached a stage where you can no longer rely on me to be late. You guys want to admit that maybe now it's time to be a little bit worried about maybe not being able to get points? Do you guys want to come to the negotiating table and discuss maybe just cashing in on some late penalties? I don't know how much better it's going to get for y'all. This deserves penalty. No, it doesn't. I'm not late. This is so irrelevant to the late penalties. I don't even know how to describe it. This is two totally separate issues. Totally separate issues. First, let's do a quick poll. Do people want to, Oof says you may be right, but give us points anyway. You may not even be the real Oof. We never cleared that up. We don't negotiate with terrorists. Akash Panis has admitted, Morj, this was your fault. I admit this was my fault. That is a far cry from acknowledging that it in any way has anything to do with the late penalty system that we discussed. If you take a look at the rules, you may notice that not a single thing in the rule book seems to address anything whatsoever about stream lag affecting late points. It's just two totally separate issues. This is a separate issues. Why did I feel the need to write dances are not allowed as penalties? All right, I guess it was such a rampant request. Okay. All right. Lower waifu stream price? Why would I do that? You think This is really funny to me that, like, I'm coming to the negotiating table being like, look, it's unlikely that you guys accumulate the points needed for some of these higher tier rewards. So maybe you guys want to cash in on some of the other prizes. And then you're coming in swinging with your offer being just like, just lower the price. Just lower the price. Why would I do? What's my incentive to do that? Why would I do that? The whole reason I've been so timely as of late is because I don't want to do the higher level rewards. Why would you just come in and be like, Morj, just lower the points for the other things so we can pay for them? No, that's the whole purpose of me trying to not be late, to avoid doing those things. Why the fuck would I just be like, oh, you know what? You guys have been so good, or I've been so good, but fuck it. Let's just punish me anyway. I'm going to lower the waifu stream to like 100 points. Why would I do that? L, thanks to 2. Nah, bro, I done did 4 refreshes. We want points. I know you want points. I'm saying you can't have them. What I can offer is, here are the things, here's my offers. All right? Here's what I can offer. I can eat a habanero or a similar spicy thing. I can do a video defending Usopp as long as I can upload it whenever during LBAF. I will do a Law cosplay. I'll do a Law cosplay so good you guys will cry. You'll be in tears. You'll all unanimously say Morj is the best Law cosplay we've ever seen. I can read 1 chapter/episode of a series chosen by you guys. For 25 points. Those are my offers. Could I interest you in a habanero? Or a video on Usopp? Or wearing a Law hat? Can I interest you in any one of those things? All right, let's do the poll. Cash in points or wait? Let's see. Stormy says Morj and his tardiness, they will surely meet again. You bitches. You guys want to wait? It is kind of a win-win for you all because this way, right? This way, like, even if you never get the points, at least you're getting me being on time, which is probably that's ultimately what the goal of this was anyway, right? All right, I see you guys. I understand. Oof says, give us 6 points and we will cash in now. I know you would. That's why I'm trying not to let you guys get those 6 points. I feel like we're speaking 2 different languages here. I think you're confused as to what my motivation is as opposed to your guys' motivation and why we might have opposing motivations. L, thanks for the 5. Usopp cosplay, take it or leave it. You drive a hard bargain in that you offer nothing. I think I'll leave it. I don't know. Usopp cosplay would also be very easy. I mean, I could do an Usopp cosplay. I just have to wear the Usopp's little bandana thing, right? Rare Gia, thanks for being a Yonko team member for 30 months. If we ever do cash in points, I vote for Morj reading a chapter of Burn the Witch. That'd be nice and fun. I've also wanted to see what it's about, too. Let's get the stream lights up to 100 real quick. Daniel James says, now what say you? All right, I'm going to take in maybe 1 or 2 more predictions, and then I will probably talk NBA for a little bit to close out stream. And then, yeah. The Water God, thanks for the 5. Prediction, Usopp goes to another island for the rest of the arc, and Law changes his outfit to only wear a bikini for the rest of the series. I don't know if I'm going to put that one down. Usopp goes to another island for the rest of the arc. So Usopp's just not an Elbaf. The Water God, I might not put that down. Also, if Law changes his outfit to a bikini, that does not influence my Law cosplay whatsoever. Manny says, Morj, did you see the Jubilee Skip Bayless video? So I did see it come on my feed, and I actually opened it up briefly just to browse through what the questions are. But I strangely didn't, like, I just browsed through the chapter timestamps, but I strangely didn't actually, like, I kind of hit play just to hear a little bit, and then I just immediately got bored because it was like, I felt like none of the questions were interesting. Like, what I would have liked, I think what I would have liked would have been to see Skip Bayless have to defend one of his crazy takes. I don't know much NFL, so I'm not going to get into that. I would have liked to have put him forward to have to defend like one of his crazy takes. Does that make sense? That's what would have been fun for me. Like, because he has some absurd takes. Like, he says stuff like LeBron James is like 9th best player all time or something like that. But I saw the topics, and the topics were like, Jordan is the GOAT over LeBron. That's Skip's take, right? Jordan's the GOAT over LeBron. Or he would say like, Magic is the greatest Laker of all time. Those aren't crazy takes, you know? Those aren't great. Like, those are just takes that, it's not even crazy. Like, the majority of the world, probably, at least in terms of, I think if you get into, like, hardcore basketball fans, it's probably a more even debate between, like, Jordan, LeBron. And it's probably going to be generational, what you think. But in terms of, like, the general image of basketball, I think the average person probably thinks of Michael Jordan first and foremost as the most iconic, famous basketball player ever. You know, like, Jordan's just Jordan. Like, Jordan's just the most, maybe outside of, like, soccer players, like football players, Jordan's maybe the most iconic athlete in sports history. Like, you know, so if Skip's doing like a Jordan versus LeBron debate versus random people, it's just not interesting to me because it's just like, he's not debating anything crazy. If you have Jordan as number one in the GOAT debate, I don't think anyone's like saying that's crazy, right? I don't think you're crazy if you say LeBron. Like, it's just, it is what it is. So for me, the fun of Skip is more so him. Same with like Magic. Like, I think people forget this, but if you go back in time to look at like lists and stuff like that, prior to Kobe's passing away, a lot of people, like casuals, normal NBA fans or whatever, people on Reddit, people on Twitter, YouTubers, whatever, NBA people on TV, NBA stars, like a lot of people would have sports articles like ESPN, Bleacher Report, like a lot of lists would have Magic higher on an all-time list than Kobe. I think as of late, I've seen more of a Kobe resurgence, or whatever, but it's not crazy to be like Magic is the greatest Laker of all time, you know? So for me, the fun of Skip Bayless, the fun, if you want to call it that, is that he has some absolutely absurd takes that he will argue to the death. That's where he's an entertaining person, even if he's just flat out wrong. Like, he'll just have some absolutely absurd takes that just make no sense, that piss you the fuck off. Like, he'll say something like Steph Curry's not clutch or something, or LeBron's not clutch, doesn't have a clutch gene or something. He'll make some really weird-ass takes. Or just pick a player, be like, Kevin Durant better than LeBron or something. Like, if he wanted to make that debate, then that's fun seeing him, like, argue with random people. But if he's making the debate of, like, LeBron versus Jordan, like, and just as a normal thing to be talking about with like normal people, then I'm like, that's no fun. There's not really anything interesting about it, you know? Yeah. Anyway. All right. I'm a casual and I agree Jordan is the most iconic for sure. Yeah, I'd put it this way. So like, my sister, who knew nothing about basketball, now she knows a bit more about basketball, but my sister literally thought that she thought that Jordan's still playing because the most famous basketball player is Michael Jordan. So I like at one point, like this was like maybe like 10 years ago or something like that. I was just talking about, or maybe not 10 years ago, like 7 years ago or something like that. I was just talking about players. That's like, yeah, the best player is probably LeBron James right now or whatever. And like she would ask like, oh, I thought Michael Jordan's the best player, and I'm like, well, he's retired or whatever. And she's like, oh, I thought he's still playing. I think that there's legitimately a not, like, my sister's like a decently social person. She talks to people. She's not like some person who has no understanding of uh, like culture or anything like that. There are a lot, like, you would be very surprised outside, like, the LeBron Jordan debate is really concentrated among like actual basketball fans. In the broader casual scope of the world, Jordan is more associated with basketball than even LeBron is, even to this day. That's just, yeah. No, I'm not capping. That's like an actual thing that she thought. Like, if you ask people that are not basketball fans to name basketball players, Michael Jordan is probably still going to be the first thing that they think of. Like, that's just a thing. Like, if you just ask random people who don't know anything about basketball, like, name a basketball player right now, name someone who played basketball, Michael Jordan might still be the first player that a lot of people think of. Hervith Gabar says, make a stream about One Piece characters ranking in basketball. I think actually, somebody actually, I didn't do a full stream ranking it, but like, oh, you know what? A fun stream would be like NBA crews. Oh, One Piece crews compete in basketball. Let's get the stream lights up to 100 real quick. Rever 6 is worldwide. Steph is more popular than LeBron in a lot of cases. I think there's some differences between like popular versus like name recognition. I could see Steph being more popular than LeBron in a lot of like foreign countries because Steph, just the way he plays and like his size and everything. I still would imagine that LeBron has the most name recognition of any basketball player alive. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you ask people in random foreign countries, like across the world, to name basketball players that they know, I imagine LeBron James still has the most name recognition out of active current players. Schmeedy G, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for a month. Who's your MVP this season? I fucking hate Shea. Not hate. Hate's a strong word. Hate's such a ridiculous word. I shouldn't use the word hate when I'm talking about like basketball players, right? I hate him as a player. I would give him the MVP. I think I personally lean towards, I want us to go back towards the days when MVP was about, just for consistency across NBA history. You don't have to agree that this is what the award should be. But to me, I would like to go back towards the days, like just collectively shift back so we have some level of consistency in what the award represents. MVP, just give it to the best player on one of the best teams. I say one of the best teams because it should be like a top 2 seed, absolute worst top 3, and that player should be the driving force to have gotten them there, right? So for example, Donovan Mitchell isn't the Cavs, right? I'd say even Jason Tatum is not the Celtics. The Celtics as a whole are a very complete team where Jason Tatum happens to be the best player. Same with Donovan Mitchell with the Cavs, right? The Thunder are Shea, right? The Thunder are a very good team, obviously, overall, but Shea is the driving force, the engine, right? A la Steph Curry and the Warriors, stuff like that, you know? Yeah, I think Jokic is obviously the best player. He is obviously, technically speaking, the most valuable player in the NBA. But I don't want to, I want, just for the sake of fucking consistency, just consistency in what the award has represented over the years, MVP has generally gone to the player that has gotten their team to the top of the standings, right? That's what it's been. Let's just keep it that way. It really only changed because of Russell Westbrook in 2017. That's when it changed, right? Because if we get into the whole MVP should mean like who's the most valuable, blah, 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 like in a certain, like who's actually the most valuable, then you have to rewrite too much of NBA history. Because, like, yeah, then it would be fair to give Jokic this award, but then we have to go back and, like, then just what the award represents changes totally. Because then we have to go back and be like, well, if Jokic has 4, then LeBron should have this one, and Jordan should have that one and that one. It just skews things too much. You see what I'm saying? To me, it'd be the same as if, like the finals MVP rule, right? Like, people wanted to give LeBron the finals MVP in 2015, even though he was on the losing team. Once you set that precedent, then it's just almost unfair to past players, because it's just like, well, there's probably a lot of players that should have had more finals MVPs. They were just on the losing side of the matchup at the end of the day, right? So to me, it's just, no, let's just keep things consistent, right? Keep it consistent, because then you're able to evaluate players across history better. Yeah, that's it. It's just because it's like, if we start giving it to Jokic just because he is the best player, the most valuable player, then yeah, Jokic could end up with like fucking, like, he could be the most valuable player statistically and in terms of how much he raises his team, right? The impact on his team. He could be that for the next 4 years, right? But I don't want to keep giving it to him like that, because then Jokic ends up with like a shit ton of MVPs, and it's like, okay, well, now we need to reevaluate. If we're going by this logic, then fucking Jordan should have had this many, LeBron should have had this many, Kobe should have probably had this shit, like that year that he averaged like 35 in the slow era and stuff like that. Like, you know what, you get what I'm saying? Like, just for the consistency of, like, yeah, Jokic deserves it if we're saying who's actually most valuable, but because we've had a standard of that not being the actual metric for decades, the actual metric was be the player that drives your team to the highest standing, right? And be the driving force of that. That's the standard. If you can be that player for the season, that's all I think we should really go by. I think Westbrook skewed it too much by getting that triple-double season before, at a time that we just were enamored with the idea of a triple-double, which now just doesn't matter as much anymore. Because, like, that's it. Aaron says, Morj doesn't want Jokic to tie LeBron in MVPs. I really like Jokic. I really like Jokic as a player. Genuinely speaking, if Jokic passes LeBron all time as a player, I wouldn't have an issue with that. Like, LeBron's my favorite player of all time. He's always, like, that's always going to be, like, that's who I really got into basketball getting whatever attached to or whatever. Like, Steph is my second favorite player of all time. I already currently feel like I think Steph is accomplished more, so I'd put him higher all time than Jokic. But I do feel like Jokic, at this point, in terms of his peak, is probably better, a higher. I don't want to get into all this. Okay. But I'm fine with Jokic passing up my favorite players if that were to happen. I think it's a long shot, but if it were to happen, whatever. Like passing LeBron. But I'm just saying, like, for my own sake, like, I've had this complaint before as well, which is like stats inflation, right? To me, it's weird to compare stats from this era to the previous era to like the 2000s era, because like points are clearly becoming so much easier. Like, LeBron today is able to score the same points as he did in his prime easily, but he's nowhere close to as good of a player as he was today. So for me, it's just, I like the idea of consistency and being able to evaluate players across different periods of time. So if we finally change the MVP rule to favor the actual most valuable player now, I just think that would set a really weird precedent going forward, because then it's just like, we might hit a time where like fucking Wembanyama gets 10 MVPs in a row, because even if he's not getting like first, second, or third seed or something, just because the whole standard skews. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then that makes it impossible to compare to players from the past. That's just it. I just want some consistency there. Logan Hardy says, what do you think about Malone getting fired? I think that we never know. I didn't think so when it happened, I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world, because I never thought Michael Malone was a good coach. Like, okay, I'm not the person who knows. I'm not the best at being able to identify who is or isn't a good game-changing coach in the NBA. I often look to try and understand which teams are really good at X's and O's and stuff like that. Obviously, you can be a good coach in terms of getting people fired up. I've never liked Michael Malone as a coach because to me, he's just an attitude type coach in terms of like he's got this tough attitude, tough guy attitude, whatever. I just, yeah, I never felt like he was the reason for the Nuggets' success. And I feel like, especially as the team slowly shifted towards just give it to Jokic and let Jokic figure it out, I'm like, isn't it that fucking coach's job to figure some shit out to really make this whole thing click? So I never thought he was that good of a coach. I understand people were like, well, why did they fire him now? But then I saw the reasoning of the owner, and it makes sense, which was just like, one, we never know what's going on behind the scenes. So we don't know how far gone the team is at that point, and like how bad morale is under the coach at that point, or the coach and general manager's internal feud. So we don't know that. So it's easy for us to sit back and be like, this is a terrible decision, right? But the reasoning that was given was like, well, honestly, we were going to fire him a lot earlier, but then they went on a win streak, so we knew that it would be really, really bad to fire them then. But even Jokic during that win streak literally said, well, we've not been playing the best team, so it's kind of like fool's gold. Like, we're not actually that good. So it was kind of like just unlucky. Like, the plan was always to fire the coach. It was just unlucky timing that they hit a win streak, so it was kind of just like the ownership probably felt like we're not allowed to fire the coach because it's just going to cause riots or whatever. So at this point, it's just like the Nuggets were heading into the playoffs, likely set to lose to whoever the fuck difficult team they played. There is almost no harm in just resetting, giving a clean slate, letting the team just have a different mentality heading in than the mentality that where you know they're going to lose heading in because of the current toxicity or the environment. That's my only thought. Like, I don't like the reasoning that just because it's never been done before, like, oh, no team has ever fired their coach this close to the playoffs and done well before. Like, just because it's never been done before, I think that can sometimes handicap making good decisions. I don't think the Nuggets are going to win. I would love for them to win this championship somehow. I don't think they're going to, but it might give them a breath of fresh air and do better than they otherwise would with the coach. And you're not losing anything because if they didn't do this, then they would lose anyway. That's pretty much guaranteed for anybody that watched a little bit of them. So I think it's fine. Obviously, there's extremes with that idea, like Nico Harrison thinking it's a good idea to trade Luka. Like, yeah, there's a reason nobody fucking trades their, like, superstar young player in their prime, right? That makes sense, right? But that was also because they were on a great trajectory. Like, the Mavs were set to potentially do even, like they were solid finals contenders and maybe even championship contenders this year, and they're coming off a finals win, right? The Nuggets had been on a downward spiral overall that was being masked by Jokic really carrying them, right? So in that sense, it's like, well, nobody fucking fires their coach this close to the playoffs. It's like, yeah, but does it really fucking matter? Does it matter? Instead, like, this will likely light a fire under the players to some degree. People will know that shifts are coming. Everyone will want to be playing well in the playoffs, like actually trying, because they know that their asses are on the line. I think it's fine. I know the timing is weird, but like, to me, it would be really weird and really bad timing if you're legitimately a really good team that's actually got a shot. The Nuggets did not have a shot. Now it actually feels like they might be a little bit better, even if their mentality just got a little bit of a reboot. That's it. So it's like, if they got worse after the firing, what the fuck does it matter? They weren't going to do well in the playoffs anyway. If they actually do better in the playoffs now, then cool. Like, let them go in with a fresh mentality. Logan Hardy says, think Joker stays longer or gets traded after this season? I don't think he's getting traded. I think he would stay longer. I don't think he's the type to force his way out unless they really don't do... unless they really made terrible moves or something, or like don't help the roster at all. But I feel like these moves mean that they're ready to make some big changes. Like, they have to be, you know? Bingle D Oop, thanks for being a Yonko to your member for 30 months. Do you think Gunko confronting the low/mid Straw Hat fighters is going to set up a feat for the Straw Hats or the Holy Knights? I think that we will. I don't. I don't think the Strats will get fucked up. I think that we will. That this will be used to hype up the Holy Knights a little bit. Lula Meg says, "Are you for the Warriors or the Lakers this postseason?" I'm for the Lakers. I'm for the Lakers. My Raphael is saying, "Please move on from basketball." I'm just gonna give a heads up. We're probably, unless you got like a prediction that you want to make, that's fine. We can still get it in. But I did say a bit ago that we're coming to a close with predictions, and I'm probably going to be talking NBA a little bit, just because it's exciting shit going on and the playoffs are about to start. So I think I'm probably going to talk NBA a little bit longer, and then I think we will wind down the stream. So just maybe I should be more clear on that. Am I for the Warriors or the Lakers? Oh no, I should have said, I think we're going to get a bit more hype for the Holy Knights because they're the ones that we need to see a little bit, like, to establish their strength. Like, I don't think it's possible the Strats do decently, but still get a little, like, I don't think they're going to fuck up the Holy Knights, is my feeling right now. Because the Holy Knights need to feel like threats going into the climax of the arc, right? That's my feeling. No, I'm for the Lakers. This season feels very exciting. Last season, like, it's a perfect merging because last season I was rooting for the Lakers. They lost very early. And then the team that I really supported after, like, as the Nuggets kind of flamed out was the Mavs all the way to the finals. So this season is like a perfect merging because my favorite player of all time is LeBron. And I think my favorite player of the newer generation is Luka. So this is just putting them on the same team is just such a cool story. I think the story of the Lakers is really, really exciting this season. Sometimes it's just narrative. It helps that it's the Lakers, obviously, so they naturally have spotlight. But, like, Luka's story is really, really cool this season. LeBron having turned 40, going at maybe one or two final runs at it, maybe a passing of the torch with him and Luka, like him passing the torch off to Luka as the next guy of the next generation or something like that. Maybe. I know not everyone's on that train, but, like, that would be really, really cool to see. LeBron first year with his son. I don't know. I just think it's really cool. I think this might be LeBron's last or second to last shot at a championship. The Lakers do have more time to retool this next season because they don't have a real center or whatever. But LeBron will also be a year older, and you really never know when he's done, like when he's going to run out of gas. So it might be his last season, might be second to last. We've been saying it for a while, but you never know, right? Nuggets would be my second favorite because I truly feel like I like, this is just a me thing. I like seeing, how do I say this? I like seeing the appropriate, like, basketball is a team game, right? So when I follow something like Smash Bros. Melee or tennis or something, things that are individual things, right? It's ultimately down to the player themselves. Like, do you get the number one ranking? Do you win this tournament, that tournament, stuff like that, right? With basketball, it's a team thing. I like the idea that, like, these players that I'm seeing play and do all of this stuff, like, ultimately their resume will reflect how great they were and how dominant they were or whatever. To me, Jokic is undoubtedly the best player in the world. I mean, not to me. I think he is undoubtedly the best player in the world to most people. And he has been for the last several years. He only has one championship because he is not the type of player to force his way out to a better team. And the roster around him, has been terribly managed for the last couple of years, right? That's just the reality of it. So for me, this is kind of mind-boggling because, like, since LeBron, Jokic is the first player that I've really gotten to watch who, like, has undisputably held the title as best player in the world for several years, right? Other players have flirted with that title on and off. Like, for a bit, people were like, Giannis is the best player. For a bit, people were like, Steph is the best player. In my entire time watching basketball, or for a bit, people were even like, Kawhi might be the best player, right? There's even a little bit with KD. Like, there's players who have, like, gone in and out of the conversation. But for the majority of the 2010s, it was like LeBron's the best, right? Jokic is that next dude who has finally had an extended stint as like everybody just saying like since 2023 on, people have just been like, yeah, Jokic is the best, right? He holds the title. But Jokic is not getting the championships that I feel like are due his way, because if he just had a better team, if he had like an actual number two and not like fucking like not fucking like day and night, you never know if he's like gonna be on or not, like Jamal Murray, or like you never like a real coach, or like Michael Porter, someone better than Michael Porter Jr. is your third option. Like if Jokic just had a real team, like other superstars kind of force their management to build around them, or they force their way out. Like that's the thing. I'm seeing basically the second most extended level of dominance I've ever seen in the NBA, and I'm kind of like, I would like that to be reflected 10 years down the line. You know what I'm saying? Like that's it. So I do want Jokic to at least win one more finals or something like that in his time with the Nuggets. I think it'd be a damn shame if like a player as good and dominant as him, due to team circumstances, only really ends up with one for his career, which is a possibility. The NBA is very competitive, right? Most players try and force their way to as good of a team as possible in this era, right? Most players do that, or they put extreme pressure on their management to make the necessary trades. Jokic hasn't done that, and I feel like he will be punished over time for not doing that. And I think that would really suck. Because I think in the long run, his resume may not reflect as good of a player as he is. Like, to me, it feels kind of right that if it's a player that I like and they're the best player in the world, I would like to see them in the finals winning championships. It just feels correct, right? So that's why the Nuggets are kind of my second pick. Steph Curry and the Warriors, my thing with them, even though Steph's my second favorite player of all time, and I got into basketball watching the Warriors, I'm really okay if Curry never wins another championship. I think he completed his legacy in 2022. Like, I think that was, and the Olympics were like the cherry on top. I think like the Warriors have won so much. They got to live at the top of the NBA for so long. Like, it's just, I'm cool if they never win. Like, it'd be great if like Lakers and Nuggets are out. I'm gonna root for the Warriors. I don't fucking like the other teams, but there's also nothing to me that's missing about Steph Curry's legacy. I think he has a legacy that reflects exactly how good of a player he is, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm good with where Steph's resume is at. And honestly, I don't like some of the other Warriors. I don't fucking like Draymond Green. I really don't like Draymond Green. I don't need him winning another championship or whatever and bragging about it when he fucking got backpacked by Curry or whatever. I do like Jimmy Butler. I feel like Jimmy Butler getting a championship would be cool. That's basically it. Joey Wheeler says Jamal Murray is fine for number 2. MPJ is the issue. That's the thing. Jamal Murray's really not fine for number 2. The number 2s on other teams are like real legitimate number 2s. They're guys that you can count on to carry the team if needed. Like I just fucking said, like Jimmy Butler, that's a phenomenal number 2. Like I watched the Warriors-Clippers game yesterday. When Steph didn't have it going the first 3 quarters, Jimmy was reliably go-to over and over, like 30-plus points a game. Like 30 points a game, great defense, getting them buckets at will, facilitating, all that shit, great efficiency. Like, that's what a number 2 is, like, when you don't have it going. Like, Luka with Kyrie. Like, when Luka wouldn't have it going some games, you can just give it to Kyrie and expect that he can take over and just win you games by himself, right? LeBron and Kyrie, obviously. In Boston, like, Tatum's got Jaylen Brown and, like, other players that could actually be number 2. Giannis is fucking Damian Lillard. Those are real number 2s. Jamal Murray is a number 2 if you squint. That's who he is. There is never, ever, ever, ever been a time that Jamal Murray has played at an all-star level at all consistently when he's not playing with Jokic. Never. Like, never. A Jamal Murray-led team would not be a playoffs team. It would, like, even in the fucking East, it wouldn't be a playoffs team. That's not what you can say about most other actual number twos. Like in today's NBA, you need actually good players as your number two to win championships. Jamal Murray is not that dude. He can get hot at times and play like that for a solid playoff run. It's been rare. It's happened a couple times, but that's not representative of who he is as a player overall. And even in those instances when he has gotten hot for a playoff run, you got to remember he's playing with Jokic, who's the best person possible you could have for that two-man game, right? Jamal Murray by himself is not putting up those numbers in a playoff run, ever. Like, look at how much Jokic helped Russell Westbrook in terms of just like elevating him, efficiency, whatever. Jokic does the same thing for Murray, and Murray is still fucking inconsistent as fuck, and definitely would not hit, even when he has those hot streaks and is actually playing really well, he wouldn't be able to hit that level if he wasn't playing with Jokic. So Jamal Murray's not a real number two. The problem is that he kind of looks like a number two, and the Nuggets were able to make it work one time, and so the Nuggets front office thinks that basically, or they thought they could basically get away with just like, well, this guy's our number two. He's not a real number two. Aaron says Jamal Murray at his best can be that caliber of player. He's just not consistent. That's a problem because like that mentality is a problem because there are so many fucking NBA players who can be really good on streaks. There are so many NBA players who can be really good on streaks. Like it's just the fucking NBA is chock full of those guys. Jamal Murray being that guy on occasion and that being enough to give Jokic just enough help that he can like get them through a playoff run has fooled people into thinking that Jamal Murray is an actual number two. If you put Jamal Murray on any other team, guaranteed, right, where he had to lead or be the number two to some guy that's not Jokic, he is not going to put up those numbers that consistently, and no one would ever think of him as a number two guy. There's no other team in the world that's winning a championship with Jamal Murray as their number two. To me, it's a testament to Jokic's ability that Jokic was able to win a championship with a dude like Jamal Murray. Because, yeah, he played well that run, but he would not put up those numbers if he was not playing alongside Jokic. That's just not happening. And we've seen him in so many other instances not play at that level. Like, yeah, look at him in the fucking Olympics. Like, he's not a fucking... I think streaky is almost unfair because he is streaky, but there's so many NBA players that are good in streaks. Jamal Murray's not that unique in that sense. The big difference is that he plays with a guy who allows him to play with a lot of confidence and who opens up a lot of opportunities for him to get hot. There are a lot of other number two... Like, I could go through the NBA roster and trade out so many number twos for Jamal Murray and be like, the Nuggets just got better. Dylan A says, Morj, will you do a playoff bracket prediction? Yeah, I'm thinking Friday I'll do one. That'll be fun. Aaron says he does need those Jokic screens, not going to lie. That's what I'm saying, which is just like the same way Russell Westbrook gets a lot more easy points now, the same way so many players get a lot more easy points now, Jamal Murray does as well. He's not, like, it's not just some, like, oh, weird coincidence that, like, Jamal Murray's never actually played at an all-star level over the course of a season. It's because he's not an all-star level player. He's not, like, not consistently. He can be like that sometimes, but he's greatly benefited from playing alongside Jokic. If Jokic had a Dame, if Jokic had a Kyrie, if Jokic had, like, a fucking Jimmy Butler, any of these actual, like, number two type players, a Devin Booker, whatever, it would be a wrap. The Nuggets would be, it wouldn't be a wrap, but the NBA is very competitive, but the Nuggets would actually be, like, solidly in there for championship contention. Murray's not a real number two. MPJ's not a real number three. It's just, I don't know. Lula Meg says, so Jokic should be MVP because Shea didn't elevate him in the Olympics. No, because that's not how I think MVP should be evaluated. I think we should just evaluate it the same way we historically have. I think Russell Westbrook just screwed it up in 2017, but I think historically, like, I don't think you should be MVP if you're in the 4 seed. I think MVP should be a 1 seed or a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed in some cases, basically. But I really think it should be a 1 seed or a 2 seed. I just think historically that's how it's been. I think that's what's fair. I think that rewards just the idea. It's good for the game. It's good for viewership. It's good for just like investment in the regular season. If we know that seeding matters in terms of getting the first or second seed, because that's also tied to the MVP race, and that's something I've talked about. D-Book as a number 2 player is crazy, lol. No. Devin Booker is clearly capable of being a good number 2 player on a championship team. He fucking played great in the, to my recollection, 2021 finals, right? Played really well. If you swap out Chris Paul for like fucking Jokic in the 2021 finals, they win that finals, right? Devin Booker, in fact, in the 2023 playoffs that the Nuggets won, right? Devin Booker played like a fucking god in that series against the Nuggets. He was playing better than KD. Like, forget Jamal Murray. Like, that's actually a perfect example. Look at how Jamal Murray's stats in that Suns series compared to Devin Booker's stats in that Suns series. Like, Devin Booker is also a streaky player, but that his streakiness goes from like, okay, he's an all-star player to like, holy shit, he's like playing like some of the best guard play of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like scoring at ridiculous efficiency, like 40, 50 points a game, right? That's what you want from a streaky number 2. Jamal Murray's streaky player is like, okay, he's like a 15, 17 point per player guy to, okay, he's like an all-star guard level. That's not the right range. You want a Devin Booker type range. Yeah, like if you want to compare Jamal Murray to Devin Booker in terms of like number 2 options, literally just compare that 2023 playoffs where Jamal Murray played really well, compare him to Devin Booker's stats in that same series. Devin Booker blows him out of the water. It's not even close. Devin Booker was playing damn near like Jokic's level that whole playoff. Yeah, Devin Booker is literally a textbook number 2. Oh, Paclev says, I'm saying Devin Booker is more of a number 1 player, though. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, which is that, like, the NBA right now is so talented that, like, think about the concept of what a number 2 is and think about how much of a joke Jamal Murray is in that conversation. We live in a time, like, yeah, you're saying Devin Booker as a number 2. That's silly, right? But the reality is like, Kevin Durant is the best player on that Suns team, and Devin Booker is a number 2, right? The NBA is really talented. You can have guys that are both that good as number 1, number 2. Fucking LeBron James is a number 2 option in the league right now. Damian Lillard, one of the best number 1s that we watched for like a decade, he's a number 2 right now. Jimmy Butler is a number 2 player right now. Fucking James Harden is a number 2 player right now. And James Harden is still fucking playing like James Harden. I watched him drop 39 points yesterday on amazing efficiency and fucking close the Warriors out in clutch time. Those are the players that are number 2s in today's NBA. Kyrie Irving was a number 2 for so long. Anthony Davis was a number 2 for so long. Jokic is not playing with a real number 2. He is playing with Jamal Murray. That is not, like, do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, look at all the good teams. Look at what Kawhi has as his number 2. Steph has as his number 2. Giannis has as his number 2. Luka has as his number 2. Go down the list, and then you're like, oh, wow. Jimmy Butler, James Harden, Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving. Oh, this dude has never even been a fucking all-star. Like, what the fuck? Like Devin Booker, you know what I'm saying? Ray says, no player better than Jamal is going to Denver, though. Yeah, that's the issue. Which is why I just feel like Jokic's legacy is ultimately not going to represent how great of a player he was. Because I don't think Denver is going to be able to attract the right players. I don't think they're going to be able to make strong enough moves, probably, to be able to contend with how difficult the West is now becoming. And I don't think Jokic is going to force his way out. So ultimately, you got amazing player who just is never going to push for the right situation and is never going to have the right ad as like LeBron's team in Cleveland round 1. Not saying that at all. I'm just drawing a broad analogy, okay? Which is just like, players have learned that if they want to secure their legacies, they need to either put pressure on management to do the right things or move somewhere else where it's going to happen for them, right? Players have learned that. LeBron did his stuff. KD took his fate into his own hands. Steph, and like you look in recent years, Steph, Giannis, they've put heavy pressure on their front offices to make some win now moves. Jokic has not done that to that same degree, and I don't think he's going to push to get out either. Lulo Meg says, what about Jaylen Brown? You mean the reigning Finals MVP and Eastern Conference Finals MVP? What about Jaylen Brown? Jake Wap says Jamal would be like Austin Reeves for other good teams, a really good number 3. Yeah, I would agree with that. He'd be the best number 3 in the league. Aaron says, I think Jokic is good enough to just brute force at least one more championship before he retires. So the thing is, people do ultimately give some level of credit to how things are won. So for example, Hakeem only quote unquote won 2 championships, but he won it in a way where like he was really the guy. I think he had Clyde Drexler the second time around or something like that. But Hakeem won it in a way that was like very much like he was the one that willed his team to a couple championships. And I know that like the 95 one in particular, he was really, really dominant in getting them through that playoffs. So like there is some credit given. So that's why like Hakeem is often still talked about in all-time great conversations. Like some people have Hakeem as high as like in the top 10 and stuff like that, even though his resume is a little bit more thin because people know what he was able to do in that era, right? So yeah, maybe Jokic ends up with like 2 championships, 3, maybe 4 MVPs someday or something like that. And that's not like on paper as great as some other players, but people give credit to the context, which is like, well, he played in fucking Denver the whole time with no fucking all-star players on his side. And yeah. Ray says, can we talk about Dame being crazy for number 2, but he hasn't gelled that well with the Bucks as far as I see? I have watched almost no Bucks games. So I actually don't. When the Bucks got Dame, I genuinely, because I don't dislike Giannis. I just am not a supporter of him. I don't dislike Giannis. There's nothing about him that I dislike. I think I just don't care for a player that really, like, the run and dunk man allegations are not that far off from the truth. He obviously has much more skill than just run and dunk man. But, like, I also watched him just, like, fucking look like he never learned how to play basketball when he lost to the Miami Heat in 2023. Like, he literally was terrified of catching the ball because he would have to actually make a shot, you know? So there's something that just bothers me a little bit inside that, like, to see a player like that win the NBA championship. Nothing crazy. Like, I don't know. But I did think that the Bucks would win, would turn into one of the strongest favorites for the championship the moment that they got Dame. I thought that was, like, just a given. Because I was like, this combination is ridiculous. I was watching all sorts of breakdowns on, like, how impossible it would be to guard these two together. And in pick and rolls and everything like that. And then, for whatever reason, they just never got that shit down. Which I don't know much about, because I haven't watched them. I really have not watched the Bucks with Dame and Giannis together. I could not tell you why that doesn't work. JWP says, it's also because Hakeem won the years that Jordan left. Who knows how many Hakeem would have won without the Jordan and Scottie Pippen Bulls. So, interestingly, it's the flip side because Hakeem was in the West. Hakeem was in the West. So, that showdown was actually an anticipated one back in the 90s, which was like, what would happen if the Rockets and the Bulls played in the finals? The Bulls never stopped the Rockets. That never happened. The Rockets got stopped by other teams. So Jordan's presence actually had no effect on Hakeem and the Rockets, right? It's not like, oh, if Jordan wasn't there, then Hakeem would have won this year, that year. The Bulls and the Rockets never played each other in the playoffs. So it's interesting because, like, Jordan even has some quotes where he says stuff like, yeah, we didn't actually have an answer for Hakeem, so we were pretty lucky that he never made it out of the West, or it was rare that they made it out of the West. And then the 2 years that they happened to make it out of the West also happened to be the two years that Jordan wasn't in the finals. So, or Jordan was out of the game, right? So it was just like a faded thing or whatever. So like, yeah, it would have been a really cool matchup, I imagine, for people in the 90s. Maybe it would have handed Jordan his first loss in the finals or whatever. Or maybe Hakeem would have just been like another player that Jordan got to conquer. But their legacies are almost like better off in the sense that neither of them ended up having to play each other. Because like, it was the 90s were the Jordan era. And then like, in the era that in the brief window that he was gone, it was like Hakeem was like, okay, I'm just going to start winning now. And it's not like he couldn't win before because of Jordan. It was just like a nice, beautiful little overlap where it's like, and then Hakeem had his era, and then he drifted off after Jordan came back, but neither of them got to tear the other one down. They both just got to exist and do their thing as the king of the league, independent of one another, and just take turns. It's kind of funny. Lula Meg says Giannis run and dunk isn't the same as LeBron's run and dunk. Not gonna lie, I think a large part of that is because I didn't like LeBron when I first started watching. I did not like LeBron when I first started watching. The first LeBron game I remember watching was actually in the 2013 playoffs, him against the Pacers, and I wasn't a basketball fan then. I was just watching casually in the bar with friends and stuff, and people were filling me in or whatever. And it was just like LeBron was this superhuman dude who could jump higher. I saw him catch this crazy alley-oop or whatever on a fast break or whatever, and I was just like, oh my God, this guy's basically like Superman. I didn't like the idea of that. I think, because it's cool, obviously, in retrospect. Now I respect the fuck out of LeBron for what he can do and like that crazy athleticism. But I think there was just something to the idea of like, oh, well, this dude's just bigger, stronger, faster than everybody, that I've heard from other people like not find that cool. I also didn't find that cool. Like, this guy's just bigger, stronger, faster than everybody. But then you watch LeBron for a bit, and you realize that, like, one, I think the basketball IQ is a huge part of it in terms of what makes you respect LeBron more, because it's like, oh my God, he's like the most athletic player on the floor, biggest, strongest, fastest, but he's also the smartest player on the floor. Like, he's playing a totally different chess game than everybody else, like the passing, all of that, like just way smarter, like playing a totally different level mentally than everybody else. That's really cool to see, and you begin to respect that. And then you also slowly realize that, like, LeBron can play, like, the like, the mid-range jumpers, the turnaround mid-range jumpers and stuff like that. He can play, like, he can do a little bit of everything. He can be a spot-up shooter if he needs to. He can do, like, that's when you slowly realize, like, how cool LeBron is. In that, like, on paper, he's just this thing that's already, like, the most dominant force on the floor. But he will be the whole team. Like, he'll be everything the team needs. He'll be the point guard. He'll facilitate everybody. He'll be the fucking shooting guard if you just need somebody to just knock down clutch jumper after clutch jumper just to get something going. Like, he'll be your fucking three-point shooting if you need it. It's not like he's, like, Kobe or Michael at, like, mid-range jumpers or whatever. It's not like he's Steph Curry at shooting threes. But he can do everything. Like, he really has gotten down to some degree every aspect of the game, just because he's realized he needs to do that just to be able to raise the floor and carry a team through any situation. It's really cool. Like, he is a true complete master of the game. Giannis is the dude that is mainly just a run and dunk guy who will clumsily play other jobs if needed. Like, he will clumsily try and, like, fucking play point guard or whatever, but it's not his natural forte or anything like that. He can't really shoot well over the top if that situation demands. So there is still this thought process that, like, walls can stop him. And I think he's had to cut down his three-point shooting a lot just because that's not his thing either. Old Green Need, thanks for the 5. Thanks for entertaining me while I put in floors more. Vivi next chapter is my prediction. Also, Wano isn't over. Raid hasn't failed yet in my heart. If it hasn't failed yet in your heart, then that's all that really matters, right? I'm going to put that down as the last prediction, and I think I'll probably call stream here. Aaron says, I think people came around to liking him because he was an underdog against a dynasty. Yeah, I can actually say, like, that was actually low-key the thing that... Hold on. One of the things that really brought me around... one of the things that really brought me around was literally... how do I say this? I liked the Warriors. They got me into basketball in 2016. 2017, it was harder to like them because it was just so blatantly unfair. And even I, as a new fan, understood that it was unfair. But I still wanted to see them get revenge on LeBron. So I was still on the Warriors side in 2017 because I was just like, well, this is still my team. Like, I want the Warriors to win, right, over LeBron. And they got that. But it didn't feel satisfying at all. It did not feel satisfying in the slightest. And then 2018 came around. And in 2018, it was obvious the Warriors were going to go to the finals in the West, except the Rockets were a real challenge. But it was just like, I want an interesting finals. That was my only thought. I wanted an interesting finals. I wanted a cool finals. And the East was just not interesting at all for the entire season. The East had nothing. There was nothing of note in the East. I couldn't even tell you the second best team in the East was that season. I guess the Celtics, then Kyrie got injured and shit, and Gordon Hayward or whatever. There was nothing of interest in the East at all. It was just like the NBA was going to be so boring that year, it seemed like. It was like Warriors, Rockets, and like the East had no good storyline. And so it was just like, part of me was just started to shift to like, man, the only thing that'd be kind of cool is if like the only person who could do something would be like LeBron. Like, that's the only cool thing in the East. So then in 2018, it became interesting to like I started to want LeBron and the Cavs to do well throughout the regular season. I was like, that's the only thing that'd be kind of cool. Like, if LeBron could somehow just LeBron his way to, because I'd grown to respect the fuck out of LeBron. That's the thing. Like, if you root for a team and then you see another player that's like, that's super good against the team you're rooting for consistently, you come to respect him. So I knew at that point LeBron's the best player. So I was just like, I just kind of took it. I was just like, 2018, I was like, LeBron's team's really bad, but I'm sure LeBron will figure it out somehow, like how to get them to the finals. And then as the year went by and I saw like how difficult it actually was to play with that shitty ass team, I was just like, man, I wonder if LeBron's going to be able to do it. And that slowly gets you into the mentality of like actually rooting for him. And then watching LeBron drag that team through the 2018 playoffs, because like it was a point where there was nothing else interesting in the East. I didn't want the thought of seeing the Warriors play like any of those other shitty ass teams in the finals was just so lame in my head. I was just like, watching the Warriors play like the fucking Pacers or some shit in the finals. Oh my God, that would be the worst NBA finals of all time. I was like, the only thing that'd be cool is if fucking LeBron can make it interesting somehow and get his team there. And so that was one of the coolest playoff runs to watch. You found yourself, like, I found myself rooting for LeBron, and like it was just this thing that sort of clicked where I was like, this dude is just like on such a different level basketball wise than anybody else, because he's the only player that I could reasonably be like, yeah, his team is so bad and it's literally just him, like a one-man army, but I still weirdly just trust and assume that he's gonna somehow make it through all of these rounds and get to the Warriors in the finals. Even against the Celtics in the 2018 conference finals, I think he was like down throughout that series, like down 2-0, then down 3-2 or whatever, but somehow it was just like, I just believe that this dude is probably going to pull it out anyway. He's probably just going to be able to will his way to it. Like, he's going to figure it out. And he did. And it was just like, holy shit, some are still watching Warriors Lakers here, or Warriors Cavs here in the finals. That was when I began to root for LeBron as the underdog. And that finals was so bad that it just became really hard for me to root for the Warriors even the following year, 2019. And 2019, LeBron had shifted to the Lakers. So then it actually became fun to watch LeBron in a new environment. And from then on, I started to... It just stopped being any sort of fun to watch the Warriors. It started to be really fun to watch LeBron carry that shitty Cavs team and then carry that shitty Lakers team throughout a lot of that season until he got injured. And then finally, like, 2020 was when everything really shifted, because, like, my prior favorite player, Steph, was just injured, so out for the year. And LeBron was finally in a good situation in LA, so I could happily root for... But not on an overpowered team. So I could finally happily root with a good conscience for a team that I cared about in 2020. So I think somewhere in 2019, 2020, I think 2020 LeBron just became my favorite player. It's a long story, but that's basically how it happened. All right, everybody. We are going to call... Yeah, Giannis is just insanely good. He is insanely good. I can't deny that. If I saw his stats like 10 years ago, if a player was putting up his stats 10 years ago, I'd be like, is this the best player in the world? But I haven't watched the Bucks very much this season. I haven't watched Giannis very much this season. I'll see what he does in the playoffs. It doesn't help that the last time I saw him in the playoffs, like 2023, it was really, really bad. Like, it was embarrassingly bad. It looked like a dude who did not know how to play basketball and was genuinely scared of having to try and just make a shot or make a free throw or do anything basketball related instead of just running and dunking. Like, I saw him get embarrassed by Jimmy Butler, basically. All right, everybody. We're going to call it here. Thanks for tuning in. This was a fun stream. We will talk NBA a little bit on Friday. I might do a playoff bracket prediction.